Alright, so everybody, we're gonna start out. Introduce yourselves. I guess, Simon, you can go first since you're all the way on the side from me.
I'm some guy that doesn't stream but likes Philosopher, so he talks to people about it. And yeah, that's kind of it.
Alright, buddy. Alright, Wired, about you.
Nice. If anybody here knows anybody, it's probably me, because I'm the person with the most clout here.
Oh, yeah, this is true. You have been on a big brain podcast. You have the most clout.
I'm just kidding. I'm a wire guitars, wire guitar technically. I usually do political streams, but every once in a while, well, I'd say the majority of my streams get into some variety of rhetoric. I use politics as I don't know, kind of. It's probably memey to say this, but like kind of like Irrelevant does. It's kind of like an extension of another way to demonstrate one's philosophical rigor. Politics is spicy. It's
True.
yeah, it's a way for everybody to get involved, and I noticed that there's a lot of rhetoric in politics that people often are blind to. So.
Alright, cool. Alright, so if anyone doesn't know who I am, I'm Synth, I'm hosting. I do random philosophy stuff, random game memes. I enjoy playing Factorio, Oxygen not included. I don't know, Star Wars games, those are pretty cool. So, yeah, that's about it. So I guess we'll start the podcast off, and we'll get to the first topic.
Pick any of them. Do any of them.
Indeed.
Roll a die.
Alright. I guess we'll do the Molyneux problem first.
Oh god.
If a man born blind can feel the difference between shapes such as spheres and cubes, could he, if given the ability to see, distinguish those objects by sight alone in reference to tactile schemata he already possessed? Alright.
Let me look up what tactile schemata means. I feel like I have an understanding of it.
Like the way something feels
Yeah.
is probably the way that means. I would guess.
That's what I was thinking too. Are we basically asking, like, if somebody felt a ball, like had a, say, like a rubber ball in their hands, could they'd never seen anything before prior, going purely on, I guess, a sensory perception of touch alone, and visualize the ball in their brain? That feels
Yes.
that feels like the question that's positive.
Sure, yeah.
I don't see any reason. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. Although I guess many people smarter than myself have probably gone over this, and indeed, like, it seems like Locke has shared his 2 cents on it that we could go over.
I mean, yeah, we go
My
over, like...
instinct is
Your instinct is no.
yeah, because if you've never seen anything before, it seems like it'd be quite, well, a shock to you if you'd start to see anything and recognize the connection between something you've felt and something you've seen. It seems like it's probably easy for us to say yes, only because we're able to see and able to feel. Because we've never gone without the other. Well, I'd assume that one hasn't gone without the other, to explore something before.
Sure.
And someone who's never seen something, I would guess that it would be different than it would be for them.
Great. I don't know. I think I fall into the category where it's like maybe we might be able to. Like, it's possible, but I'm not sure if we would, right? Because if we don't have the actual experience of, like, seeing things, then I'm not sure, like, how we're able to visualize things in our mind. Like, I'm not sure what that's like. And I'm not sure, like, you could actually transfer that over to, what you're seeing.
So the only way that I can really, like, explain why I feel as though he could is by explaining that one, all the senses play into each other. So when we're getting information in our environment, we're not just like looking at, say, for instance, a cop car and seeing a cop car. We're also like hearing the sirens if a cop car is going on, or maybe, for instance, like smelling the gasoline to assist if, say, for instance, the car is not within our environment. We're using these to sort of like I don't want to say visualize, because that sort of like begs the question. We're using these to sort of inference what stimulus is around us. It's not clear to me. You guys are probably aware of like sunspots, like when you look at the sun and then like you close your eyes and then you still kind of in your mind. I mean, obviously this is like that is very estranged from this, but I feel as though the mind, even when your eyes are closed, still have stimulus going on within it, and that can oftentimes be guided without just sight. So, for instance, like, I mean, again, very strange, but like if I were dreaming, right, I might not have seen a giraffe in the last week. Like maybe it'd been a year even since I'd gone to the zoo, but I could very plausibly dream of a giraffe in my dream.
Sure.
And a giraffe could still seem very real. Like it could be like a lucid dream, for instance, or some I could have like some very vivid capture or like a recognition of a giraffe in my dream, despite not having seen it for a year plus time. So that's why I mean,
Sure.
yeah.
Do you think it'd be different if you didn't have eyes at all?
Yeah.
To
So
like even pick up the stimulus?
So you're asking like if I had never seen a giraffe whatsoever, could
Well,
I still carry?
okay.
Yeah, like could I still?
Well, I just mean without like if because you said about even if you were blind, you still have the eyes to detect some sort of stimulus. Do you think it'd be different even if you didn't have eyes at all?
Yeah, no.
Well,
The sunspots thing was just to give like a. Sorry, I wasn't trying to say that if you'd never seen anything before, you could still see sunspots. The only reason I mentioned the sunspots was to demonstrate that like there is a bit of overlap between not having seen something, like not seeing something literally, and still in visualizing it in your mind. And then I use that to sort of go abstractly into dreaming, because like, you know, again, like you could dream something that you hadn't seen for a year and still visualize it very, very vividly in your mind. So I'm trying to use that to go even a step further to say, like, what if somebody who'd lived their entire life without sight interacted with a bunch of objects in such a way that these became like visual depictions in their mind.
Right.
That we do when we don't see things.
Okay, so I think, like, because as far as I know, our occipital lobe is what, like, translates our sight, right? So, like, and whenever you hallucinate, they figured out that at least with auditory hallucinations, it is the, like, audio, like, the part of the brain that processes sound that actually makes, or, like, not necessarily makes, but it perceives the sound to happen. Or maybe it makes the sound happen. Either way, it lights up whenever, you know, you're hallucinating. So in the same way, you're probably doing the same thing visually when you're hallucinating, right? And I guess this would sort of play in and say, well, what if a blind person has an occipital lobe, but they can't see, and they actually, like, they can actually stimulate that with their mind? Like, and I think that we probably can, because I can imagine, like, people have pretty vivid imaginations, especially people with, like, photographic memory and stuff like that. So I think that it would probably be entirely plausible to, like, visualize something like that, right?
Yeah, I feel the same. And you have to be careful as well, because the occipital lobe is one of four parts of a larger mechanism, which is your central nervous system. And your central nervous system, again, like it works in tandem with sight as well as touch, things like memory, your cognitive thought, breathing, temperature, like regulation, and other processes that regulate our body. So it's not just like, say for instance, you know, your occipital lobe is only recording sight. It's like your occipital lobe is part of a more comprehensive unit that records other information that we receive in our environment. And even if, say for instance, sight is not available, so like, you know, maybe you're not registering certain parts of information, I feel as again, other parts of your body, and there's been studies on these to on like blind people to demonstrate this. Other parts of your body sort of like pick up the slack and like record information that you're not necessarily being able to record through your, and you still get like a vivid picture of what it is that you're interacting with. Again, like whether or not that is a very, very clear depiction in the mind of the sphere that you're holding in your hand, that could certainly be up to debate for me. But getting a general idea, or like a understanding of what it is that you're touching, I feel like that's probably what it is. Like, could the person see that it's a green ball? Probably never, right? Like, you'd have to tell them that it's a green ball, and then they'd probably have to like visualize the color of green, and you'd have to explain to them like hue and saturation, and go. I don't know. I mean, this brings up a broader question of like, can you ever describe color to a person that's blind? And that's a question that I couldn't answer. But insofar as assuming they aren't like numb, or there's like a condition where your body's numb, you can't feel things. Like insofar as the person can feel and touch the object that they're or get like a rough sketch of it, I feel as though they could probably visualize it. That's my intuition, though.
The qualia question is probably is what leads me to like them not being able to see it, because if you're unable to, for the example, like unable to describe what green is to someone else properly, without physically showing them what green is, without even talking about whether you actually see the same thing and whatnot, if the person has never seen color, I don't think you can imagine things without color. Well, I don't know, obviously, because I've never experienced that again. Levels of qualia, but yeah, I don't know.
Well,
interesting.
It would be, well, I wonder, actually, this brings up like something kind of interesting. Do you think that someone who's like completely colorblind, like they actually just see in black and white at this point, like they can't actually fucking see any? I know that's not something that exists, but like purely hypothetical, perfect hypothetical here. Okay. Like this person, but they have seen colors before. Do you think that in their mind they would still assign colors to different objects, even if they just see black and white?
I thought about that too, actually, because as I understand it, color blindness, or like the condition associated with colorblind, is actually on a spectrum. It's not like somebody is the same level of colorblind as somebody else, and we do know through studies that this is more common in men than it is in women. But when it comes to like the perfect example, somebody only sees like black and white, or like red and blue, or some shit like that, and like no variation in between. I don't even know if that's possible. Like, could somebody hypothesize what green looks like in that world? I don't know. Like the color green is so abstract, and there's no way of feeling the color green like there is feeling a ball, right? There's no other sense that like guides your understanding of green, like there can be of guiding like what a ball is, right? This is where like the Molyneux problem seems a lot more easier for me to say, or like give a concrete answer on, yes, whereas versus the colorblind dilemma, because I don't. What sense do we have besides sight to guide us with color? There's no smell.
The same with the shape.
Yeah, green doesn't smell different than blue, right? Like green doesn't feel different than blue. It's only sight that guides our intuition here. Whereas again, like a ball is, you can see a ball, and that's probably the easiest way for most people to make that shape out. But if I blindfold you, and again, this is a bit estranged from the example, because of course we're assuming a blind person born from birth blind, never seen a ball before in their life. It seems plausible, at least to me, that person can eventually hold a ball and come to understand and visualize what that is. But again, if you take somebody like a colorblind individual who cannot visualize what green is, or cannot comprehend the color of green from a sensory perspective, how could we ever describe to that person what green is? It's like, do we have to say like it's more blue than like the red that you can see, but it's also not fully blue, or I don't know.
Isn't sensory data usually learned by proof by example? Isn't that true?
Is sensory data?
So like for the example, so to give an example of a sphere, you could give someone a sphere and go, this is a sphere, they can interact with that sphere, or this is a cube, and then you can tell the difference between what a sphere is, what a cube is. Seems like I don't know if I don't know if you could learn the differences the same without being able to interact with them the same, like
In
you
some
would.
way. Yeah, you're saying in some way through that like precede our senses. I
Yeah.
think I agree. Yeah. I feel like those are probably like really basic questions that I should be able to answer as somebody who graduated with a fucking psychology degree. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that like say for instance the fourth dimension. I don't think we can comprehend what that looks like or like how that would be because we just don't have like we don't have the mechanisms necessary in our brain yet to comprehend it, right? Maybe in a million years if we evolve. I'm just kidding.
It would be, I mean, it would be interesting if we actually evolved to be able to see more of the ranges of light, and it would be interesting to see if we could actually, like, interpret that.
Yeah, wait, can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean?
Right, so, like, say we had, like, the ability to see some bands of UV light, right? So instead of just seeing our visible light band, we could see, like, say they tweaked our eyes to be able to see, like, just the really harmful rays of UV. I think, like, UVC, or, like, something like UVC and whatever the high ones are really bad for you. And maybe it's not that one, but, like, we would be able to see those. So then, like, in areas where there are those waves and it's more, like, cancer-driven, like, we're gonna get sunburnt more easily, there's more radiation, then we can avoid those areas. Like, it would be interesting to see if our brains would be able to handle something like that. Because maybe we could do something like that with, like, genetic engineering or something.
Yeah, like augmentation or something?
Some shit.
I have like a
Transhumanism.
rough... Yeah. I have like a rough understanding of what you're talking about. It's been since like 7th grade since I ever did anything with like the UV, putting on the glasses in science class, and you have like an hour and 30 minutes, like it's a special class or something. But yeah, I think that would be interesting. Fugel is saying we can comprehend fourth dimension through explanation, right? What do you mean by we can?
We have 3D models of 4D shapes, but I don't think we can
Yeah,
see
I
it
don't
as if
think...
it was in the fourth dimension.
Yeah, I
I
don't think...
don't know what you mean by comprehend.
There's like a really weird model that I've seen a few times where as you drag like yeah, it's the cube, but then like as you drag it in, it just implodes and it goes in, and like it just disappears and it's like okay.
Yeah, I want to see these models on YouTube. I've only ever seen I've only ever seen YouTube.
Yeah.
I only saw that 4th grade or 4th dimension explained by a high school video from 9 years ago with that guy that has 12 million video. And I remember watching that video and saying like, "What the fuck? What is this? What's going on here?" Which again, it kind of concerns me because I feel like these things are something that most people can probably. Wait, so I took Tesseract and I just remembered that there's that prog metal band named Tesseract. So let me type in Tesseract and see if I can.
So you listen to metal there, buddy?
Prog metal sometimes. I listen to a lot of different genres. I think I kind of see what this doesn't feel like. This feels like illusion more than anything else. Like it's a shape that's moving, but
I mean, that's, well, kind of the point is that it's this shifting shape that like we can't really comprehend. Because like it embodies more than the dimensions our minds are even really capable of comprehending. Like I don't even think we're necessarily capable of truly comprehending like third dimension stuff. I think we do see in like a 2D. Yeah, we see in like a modified 2D plane. We don't. Yes.
I don't think.
Yes.
Because the fact that we have two eyes makes us be able to see ridges of shapes, making us be able to see in 3D. Like if you close one eye and view the world with one eye, that's what it would look like if everything was 2D, because there's no depth to anything around it. Everything seems like a flat surface. There's no, because your eyes are spaced. You can see two edges to a shape, which makes it so it has depth, which is the third dimension.
Sure, but I mean, okay. I guess I would say we would never be able to comprehend like true omniscient third person, right? We would never be able to comprehend like true third dimension. Where
I
like,
don't know what you
of
mean by
course,
that, I guess.
where you can see like this part of this cup, right? And then you can imagine what's on this part of this cup, like back here. But like you don't see the entirety of the cup at once. You just see this part of the cup and then say, "Hey, well, according to like, you know, normal fucking laws of physics and shit, the other side probably looks like that." So you don't really see in like a true third dimensional view. It's more of like a weird modified two-dimensional
2.5D or
view.
something.
It's like 2.5D or some shit. It has like, it has more than like regular 2 dimensions, so it has depth, but it doesn't
think
have
that-
like the full
I think
view.
you're actually right. Yeah, living in a 3D world, but our eyes can only show us 2 dimensions. The depth that we all think we can see is merely a trick that our brains have learned, a byproduct of evolution, putting our eyes in 2 fronts of our face, or on the front of our faces, to produce close one eye and play tennis. but that's what they're like. None of us are in a tennis court right now, but that's what this website says. I think I don't know. Fugla might be able to like fucking blow this shit out of the water, but like as I'm reading it, like I don't think we can actually comprehend the 4th dimension. I think we have we have our estimations of it, much the same way that some physicists estimate that there's at least 10 dimensions, but I don't think we can like comprehend it in the same fashion as it would manifest or does manifest in like a black hole or like a or wherever the fuck. Where is the 4th dimension even? Or where does this stuff even? Does it exist all
Not a
around
Google
us?
search.
Is it-
If there are wormholes that exist, that would be like 4th dimensional stuff, because
That's
it would be, or maybe
Or
it
that
wouldn't
it
be
could be all
4th
around.
dimensional. It would be like this weird thing where it bends the plane of space and time, and then it like breaks through it. There's like a paper example,
Yeah.
but
And I like
it's like
this. Depends
you
on what
fold
mean
the
by
piece of
comprehend.
paper in half and then you put the pencil through.
Yeah. It
It's
depends
like
on what
that.
you mean by comprehend, but hey, welcome to the Philosophy Podcast, my dude. That's what we're here to do. There. Just I don't know.
You have like 10 to 26 spatial dimensions. That's the first one. I've only ever really heard up to 10. I don't think I've ever heard to 26.
Is that the
That's
the far end? That's like the one physicist in Norway that's like
Yeah.
smokes weed part time and like has a lab in his basement and has like 3 wives that come over and he's like, dude, there's totally fucking 26 dimensions. Get the fuck out. I could see that. I don't know. At least 10 is what I think the consensus is. I dare say. It says the Wikiversity Learning Project allows participants to explore why some physicists have speculated that our universe might have 10. But again, like this gets you're getting into like hyperspace theory and like wormholes and nebula stuff that like most likely none of us will ever experience or even see us or witness somebody else experiencing it in the news in our lifetime.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's worthless like philosophy.
Sure.
I just don't know if there's like a rigid answer here. So like if somebody comes in and tries to say like, well, we can definitely do this, you guys are all wrong. I don't know if that's entirely true. There's no absolute answer here. The lines are like they diverge in such a very extract way, or not extract, complex way.
No, there is actually a legitimate theory of 26 dimensions. It isn't one guy in his basement.
I like how it's that exact number too. You know, like somebody did some mental calculus or maybe even some on-paper calculus to just work out. There has to be at least 25. No, 26.
He's written it all out in like those scrapbooks as well, like from start to finish. It's all there.
Yeah. What's the magic
25
number?
spatial
Yeah.
on one time.
Bosonic string theory, is that what you guys are on right now? Is that how we
Yeah.
Bosonic string theory?
I don't actually know if this is pronounced. Apparently this was fucking formulated in 1960. Oh, that's what this picture is. I've always wondered what this. I thought this was like modern. But no, this actually really is silly.
Could be taken both ways, I
Yeah.
guess. Supersymmetric string theory.
What the fuck?
They're getting like real deep, I think, in physics. I don't know if we can.
Yeah, this is like physics. This is like actual physics. I don't know if I can do this. This is why I went into philosophy, because I can't do physics.
I do fuck
Otherwise-
physics, man. Right in the
Otherwise, I'd be in physics.
Oh, I found a certain paper that breaks it down, but I can't. I can't. No, I can. 16 times 16 is 256. That's how they got to our number, and then yeah. No, I'm like, physical interpretation. I don't even know what that word says. I think that's where I have to draw the line. I don't know what that word says.
Yeah, fuck this shit.
Yeah, I really do. Okay.
I'll just walk around
yeah.
like a fish, I guess, and see things in my feeble 2.5. It's not even like a fish, right? Our eyes, there's prey and predator eyes, right? Prey, that's why our eyes are so close together, is for fixating, and then like for predator, right? And then prey
Yeah.
like have to the fish model because it's like easier for them to see this or some shit. I could
Yeah.
be totally wrong.
Well, they have you have a wider field of view, and while you're not able, well, I don't know how it works for animals because they're not us, but like at least within our
No,
peripheral view, it's like very unfocused, right? But we can see
Yeah,
like very sudden
binocular-
movements.
Yeah, stereoscopic vision, which allows an animal to see and judge depth, whereas so predators need this depth perception to track and pursue prey. That's why we have predator eyes, because we're the fucking alpha apex predator, natural
Hell
selection.
yeah.
I'm just like vegan, by the way. No.
Vegan, by the way.
Yeah. But prey have, I mean, again, I think fish are like some of the most obvious examples of this, like eyes on fucking two different sides of their fucking head, because they need to see all around them.
I mean, to be fair, they also have to like see up and down and shit. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's why. So we have like, so our eyes are like they're in, right? And our what are these? I guess our cheeks are like we can't really. I can't see my. So okay, like this. I'm gonna blow our fucking minds. If I'm standing up, like straight up, and I'm trying to look down, I'm just standing like, and I'm trying to look down. I can't see my feet because my cheeks block it, right? But a fish, they don't have like cheeks. They can see straight down to the
straight
fucking
down, yeah.
Yeah,
They can
don't
just see
change
straight
their
fucking
facial
down.
orient- They don't. I'm not joking. They can see like, and when I say fish, I'm not talking about all fish. Okay, I'm talking about like krill. I'm talking about like mackerel. I'm talking about like generic, helpless fish. Okay, I'm talking like the fish that would need these kinds of things to survive out there in the wild. But yeah, they can see. They're very. I guess their eyes, as well as other aspects of their biology for sure, but especially their eyes are very well adapted to the aquatic life because of how many different ranges they can see without even changing or moving. It's kind of amazing.
I'm just sitting here thinking about the godfish that just spins all of the time so it can always see everything.
But it's making a lot of vibrations if it's doing that. And plus, I mean, again,
Oh,
keep in
that's
mind,
true.
most fish they can see a lot around them without even moving. That's why it's so useful that they don't have like cheeks or things that obstruct their eyes. Is without even moving, a fish can see. I don't want to say in almost 360 degrees. There's blind spots like on the very top and the very bottom, but they can see most areas around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
fish
they have like 4 little blind spots instead of like our giant ass,
Knew
like,
that fish with 200 IQ.
Yeah. No. Again, it's a trade-off. So keep in mind, we can see depth. They can't see depth. They can only see scope. Does that make sense? So like we can see and especially fixate on things from a very far ways out. We can judge the perception by what thing is. Fish can't really do that in the same capacity.
Okay.
But the trade-off there is that the fish can see all around it. It's not like one is infinitely superior than the other. It's all based off the organism and how they interplay within their environment.
does make me wonder about snakes.
Wait, what
Snakes
about
have eyes on the sides of their heads, but they are definitely predators. Or maybe they're not. They're
Well,
not always
prey
predators.
to-
They're like in
snakes are-
between,
Snakes.
right?
Snakes are definitely not. Yeah, they're definitely not apex predators. Like
Yeah, they're
fucking-
not apex.
Think hawks eat snakes.
So like
Think about-
hawks. Yeah.
Yeah, some spiders, because I'm a big spider guy, right? Because I used to play Dota, and so like I did some zoology research on spiders. Some spiders eat snakes. Like snakes are fucking bitches, okay? And there's a reason why libertarians use them and not a better animal or reptile. I'm telling you right now. You've seen the libertarian flag that don't tread on me. If libertarians were smart, they'd use the wasp, because wasps everywhere you introduce a wasp, unless it's like another family of animal, which is like unfair, by the way, in my opinion. Wasps amongst the insect kingdom are like king. I'm not joking. Any environment you introduce wasps quickly, especially if it's like hornets or yellow jackets, those motherfuckers rise straight to the top. You just need like a male and a female, introduce them to an environment and give them like a little bit, like 5 years. They'll have the whole fucking ecosystem under control, at least in the animal or in the insect. I'm not fucking. Wasps are ruthless.
No, I already
If
know this.
libertarians are-
I live in Florida, dude. I know this from first-hand experience.
Yeah, man.
Like,
Don't fuck around.
fucking, they'll just fucking take over your entire like ecosystem. They don't give a fuck.
They won't give two shits, dude. They don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah, and they'll kill whatever
bees
the
out
fuck
after.
you like.
Yeah.
If you have some sweet ass fucking honey water out for your hummingbirds, and there are hornets around or there are wasps around, come drink that shit right up. They'll fucking kill your hummingbirds. Some good ass shit.
Yeah, some small birds die to wasps. It's actually disgusting. But I'm trying to remember how we got to this. Oh, because of snakes. Because of snakes. That's right.
Yeah, we also we went from 2.5D vision to predators and prey
Yeah.
to this.
And snakes.
That's how we got here.
Yeah. No, wasps
And then-
don't give a... Wasps definitely don't give a fuck. Okay, they'll even eat some spiders. It's actually kind of disgusting. I hate wasps.
Wasps
Interesting
are
question. What
Yeah.
about a third eye on the back of the head? Does that help or hinder the human?
A third eye on the back.
Yeah.
Well, so you have
Do you
to be
think that would
bald.
help or hinder?
That would hinder because you'd never be able to mate because people hate bald people, right? I'm just fucking.
Well,
No, yeah, and you're talking about like in an ecosystem of like survival of the fittest, right? A third
Yeah.
eye. That would only help, right? That'd be more room for information. We don't fucking need this part of the brain, okay? Just take a little scab, just a tiny little scab. You wouldn't even touch the skull. Put an eye in there. Put some strings up in there or whatever. What does the eye have? The eye has like a few blood vessels connected to it, and that's it. It wouldn't take much. Come on, guys.
It also has a few
I deserve
nerves.
this. It also has
You
a
know what? No, this is my transhumanism project now. You've inspired me, alright? I'm getting the third eye.
Third eye.
Yeah, on the back. That just seems so.
On the back
perfect.
of the
Like,
head.
There's so many things.
You would never, no one would ever be able to sneak up on you. Like, at work, you could literally, like, stand facing away from people and using your phone, and, like, no one would ever be able to catch you. Hell yeah.
Yeah, just fuck. Oh yeah, dude. No, seriously.
I mean, on the downside, you would never be able to. Well, actually, you could hide it with your long hair, if you get like, I don't know, sensory, like over sensory, I don't know, stimulation. You just hide it and then be like, I'm good. And
Well, then
then
you wouldn't
when
be
you
able to
need
see
it,
the
Comb it over.
well, then when you need it, just like put your hair up.
But here, just like Hiei from fucking Yu Yu Hakusho, like you have the headband, and then when you need to access its power, or like Kakashi, you just like on the back of your head, you just have a beanie like mine, and you just take it off, and you're like, now I'm fighting for real, or some shit. It's an interesting idea, for sure.
I don't know. I think it would hinder for the same reason. Like, well, it seems like you'd have the problem that a fish has to us is that they have the scope and we have the focus. If you have more vision, would we still have the same focus that we do with more scope?
So the way I understand this is it divides your attention. Sorry. If you're not using that part of your I guess your vision in this case, because it'd be a third fucking eye. If you're not using it like actively, then it only seeks to distract. And I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but when I close one of my eyes, watch what happens when I close one of my eyes. I don't know if you saw that. Look at real close. Watch the other eye that doesn't close. Okay. It kind of shuts with it. This would bring about a bunch of other questions, but so the eyes are actually connected. And this is why when some people go blind, especially if they lose their eye, their other eye starts to deteriorate really, really slowly over time. My sister was dating this guy who had a similar condition where like his eyes were starting to actually like he needed prosthetic eyes to like fill the gaps because they were deteriorating because they weren't being used, and something about the sockets was good. This is like really strange, but I can only imagine that like not using that part of your eye would actually like kind of like drain mental resources, and you'd have to close it. And assuming it wasn't connected to your other two, which I don't know how it wouldn't be, or like would it just be a separate part connected to the brain? Because that's right. That's how I think the eyes connect currently, right? Is they connect. There's two cords and they come out and then they connect and then they go up to the brain or some shit. Specifically like in the I could be wrong.
As I think, I don't think the chords like necessarily give each other information. I do know that they're like run right by each other, but they're also run
connected.
crisscross, right? Like our eyes are actually fucking crisscrossed, at least in which parts of our brain are processing, right? But I don't think that they share any information at that little connection point.
I'm trying to think. We've seen like those, I guess those SpongeBob memes or whatever, right? Like the eyes are, or I see what you're saying. It's kind of like a wire, like a big black wire with a bunch of small cords inside of it, and the cords themselves are not connected to each other, right? So like it looks like they're connected, but if you actually like look at them in a microscope or like look at them past the outer wire, like they don't actually intersect, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
They crisscross and then I think they go upside down too, right? In your brain.
It's like if you had like two extensions cords and and they had insulation on them, and then you just ran the extension cords over each other, and then both of those extension cords, they may have plugged into the same thing, but like they're still transmitting different power or whatever, like for sake of the example.
I see what you mean. And yeah, I'm looking at a picture right here, or visual. I guess they're not like connected in the same fashion that I thought they would be. Like I thought they literally shared information. Yeah, I don't know how that third eye thing would work then. If that would like actually drain mental resources if you weren't using it as most combat probably wouldn't involve you using it.
I just realized sleeping on it might actually be the downfall. Because you could be lying down normal, and then you got an eye there. Is putting pressure on the eye like that for that long going to be bad?
You're right. You probably only. I mean, I always sleep on my side anyways because I feel like sleeping on your back is bad for you.
Well,
sleep on my
I don't
side
know.
most of the time anyway.
Yeah, whenever I go to sleep, I just think to myself, what if I have a freak accident and I have to throw up, and then I just throw up and I die?
Like. Yeah, like
if you're laying on your back, yeah, that's how Jimi Hendrix died.
I know it. You're thinking of fucking Breaking Bad, right? The meth addict girl that Jesse was dating in like the third season, and she was.
Yeah, and Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, is that how Jimi Hendrix died?
Pretty sure.
He asphyxiated when he was sleeping.
Asphyxiated on his own vomit while he was sleeping because he slept on his back. Pretty sure. Maybe.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was an overdose. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was an overdose. Whatever. But yeah, he was sleeping on his back and he overdosed and he threw up in his mouth and he asphyxiated from it. Couldn't breathe. I just think about that shit happen to me and I'm like, I'm gonna not do that.
Actually, I don't even know. Or no, so soon after Bannister pronounced Hendrix dead, a hospital spokesperson told the press, "We don't know where, how, or why he died, but he died of an overdose."
Oh, maybe I was wrong then.
But that evening, many newspapers sensationalized headlines that exploited the death from overdose account. His public relations manager granted an interview where he said, "Well, all I know is that his body was taken to the St. Mary." I don't know if this was an overdose or if they were just like the media was trying to sensationalize it. Kind of like what's his name, the Chester Bennington guy, the guy from Linkin Park, Chester Bennington. Yeah.
Yeah, Chester
Like,
Bennington. He
yeah, so-
committed suicide though.
Yeah, he committed suicide, but like I think they said it was hanging, right? And I think it actually was hanging, but like I know that sensationalizing the death of people that died, like I guess of actors or people like the McDonald's lady, that got in a lawsuit several like maybe a decade or two at this point, and the story was completely fucked. Everybody thought that she like was sitting in her car and spilled coffee on herself on purpose, and she burned herself a little bit, and so she sued McDonald's for like $1 million. But I remember watching an interview, and it was like totally that story was completely bogus. Like, in fact, the McDonald's coffee was like at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Like it was like beyond burning. It was like scalding, and she got third-degree burns from it. And she actually like I think hit a speed bump. I'm just saying that like for the Jimi Hendrix death situation, he might not have like OD'd. These news sources may have lied about it.
I don't know.
Yeah, the media response thing.
Capitalist intent.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm like exactly right about this thing. That or it just being Jimi Hendrix. I don't know. My dad told me that, and I kind of took his word because he grew up during that time. But
yeah, he's a cool dude. I like Jimi Hendrix.
yeah. But I mean, concept still stands, I guess.
Oh.
Still don't want to.
Still a fringe problem to worry about.
Still a fringe problem. I mean, to be fair, I've woken up from throwing up before. Like, so, it's a fear.
Also,
Okay.
realized it afterward.
Well,
I
Jimi
mean-
Hendrix was also he was on barbiturates. Barbiturate. Sorry, that's a hard word to pronounce. I don't think we
Barbiturates.
give these out anymore because they're like barbiturates. I think it's
No,
barbiturate.
barbiturates aren't prescribed, like at all
Yeah.
anymore.
Aren't they?
They're-
Wait, somebody tell me, is this barbiturate or barbiturate? Look at the word that I spelled in chat. That's barbiturate, right? Or is the second R silent? Is it barbiturate? That's definitely barbiturate.
Is that actually how it's spelled?
That's how it's spelled, but how does it pronounce?
I've always I've also heard
I think
it.
it's barbiturate. I think that the second R is
I-
silent. That's fucking.
Yeah, I think it's
Every time I read
barbiturate.
it,
I've always heard
yeah.
barbiturate.
Yeah.
But as far as I
don't-
know, they're just like really addictive, like
Yeah.
anti-anxiety and antidepressant type things
Yeah.
that work.
I do not think we give these out anymore because these things are like hard as
Well, they also
Produce
like
a wide
work
range of effects from mild
Yeah.
sedation to death.
death. Yeah.
to death.
What a wide
Yeah.
range.
Yeah, what a wide range. Yeah, we don't. I think like along the same lines, stuff like benzodiazepines, or and benzos in general are being prescribed less because like there are more interactions with those drugs than fucking anything else. Like I think that's how Lil Peep died. Fucking rip, dude.
Yeah.
I was the one that heard of him after he. I'm one of those people. Sorry. You do.
So, I guess we'll move on to the second topic. So, I guess let's do time. All right. So,
Oh no. You could do it, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember that conversation I had a while ago with that one person.
all right.
Yeah.
So, do we think time is like an objective, measurable thing? Do we think it's like purely a philosophical concept? Do we think it's a mix of the two? What do you guys think?
I saw this question as the same as like infinity or similar, in that time has like a very practical purpose, I think, for most people. But when we think of the concept in an abstract way, such as like, does it go on forever? Does it ever stop? Will we ever cease to exist? Will something ever come after us? I always think of it like it's kind of lame, but I always think of it like there's a very good chance that these things will go on forever, or that, say, for instance, like the concept of infinity does exist somewhere, but that like we can't comprehend it, or that it's like not immediately relevant to us for some reason, or it's like hidden under the Earth's crust or some shit like that. Like there's some similarly like inexorably powerful force that is, I don't want to say God or anything like that. I'm agnostic to this, but but that there's some reason as to why, like, say for instance, especially even though we're talking about time, especially for the concept of like infinity, I feel like these concepts probably do exist in a real applicable way beyond the mathematical way. But just that there's some like there's ways that there's like a reason why have not interacted with it yet. In terms of time, I think it's like in a similar fashion.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think the way that the opinions I have of both of them would probably opposite to each other. That I think one could exist, one could exist philosophically, and the other one I don't think can. Time being the one that I think does. Even that wasn't even the question, but like yeah.
Time exists philosophically, but like what infinity?
Infinity, I don't think can.
It only exists mathematically.
Yeah. Yeah. Simply put, yeah.
What do you think of when you think of infinity? I'm just curious.
Non-ending, things like that.
Yeah. So then, like, do you think there can be anything in the real world that can be that? Like, can be non-ending? No. Let me think about that for a sec. I'm trying to think of some really fucking big stars that have existed for longer than we could ever even or that we can even measure right now. I don't know. Could they? They could probably burn out at some point.
Well, yeah, they could probably they will burn out at some point.
Yeah.
Theoretically, like
yeah,
that's how.
Fuck those.
You can't do energy.
How about the unknown unknowns, the things that we don't know that we don't even.
I think.
Right?
Well, I think, or maybe like what about the universe and its actual affinity to like expand, seemingly infinitely, right? Like the boundaries of the universe are seemingly unending, right? And we might actually unearth that like they do end at some point, but like we can't see that point, at least as far as we can tell right now, right? So like this would be like the only example I could think of that might be infinite in some way.
Is the universe?
Yeah, the universe.
Yeah, and I think that's like yeah, sure. I want to. I'll piggyback on that because that's the only one that beyond things that we do not know, we don't know. I guess beyond things that we can't even like comprehend or have no way of measuring beyond our known universe. I think you're right. I think insofar as the universe goes, we still don't know what happened. I think before the Big Bang, if we even choose to subscribe to that. I know most scientists. And you know, I think there's very plausible reason to believe that whatever happened beyond then has been going on for then and then also now and then probably will continue to go at some point. But I don't the star narrative or like the nebula or black hole. I think those things will eventually end, and those things are again like very much in the world, very much things that we can. I don't want to say like study, but like we know do exist. I do think that those things are, we know that they're finite, right? So.
Well, actually, do we know that a black hole is finite?
Yeah, I'm gonna look this up. Do black holes go on forever? They die, right? Or
Yeah, I think
they implode.
A finite lifetime due to the emission of Hawking radiation. However, for most known astrophysical black holes, the time it would take to completely evaporate and disappear is far longer than the current age of our universe. So. Oof.
So effectively, they could swallow up the entire universe and say fuck everything. I mean,
I don't fucking know. This is some weird shit. Okay,
well,
you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna root this straight in the ground right now. I think infinity as a concept does probably exist in the at least the unknown universe, but might even exist in the known universe that we right now. And certainly, time. Certainly, time. I think goes wrong. Boom.
Would you say that something that hasn't ended yet would be equatable to something that is?
Well, definitely not, right? Because, like, I'm something that has not ended yet, at least in my life. But I will end.
Well, I could say that about time then, right?
Well, no.
It hasn't ended yet, so I don't think it's infinite.
Wait. Hold on. Let's be clear, though. That was a very general question. You said something that has not ended yet could be infinite. I mean, come on, that's not the only criteria for what makes infinite. Infinity
isn't just mean that it isn't, right?
Oh yeah, so you're saying that there could be an end to these things, we just don't know about it yet?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, for sure. But because we do not know, and especially given the weight, or like weight's the wrong word, the gravitas of these concepts, like we're talking about black fucking holes, right? And even beyond that, we're talking about the known universe, and especially what came before it, and what event created it, because fuck God. These things, I think there's a very plausible argument that these things have always been around, or
Probably
that
agree with that.
something in these things have always been around. Maybe what happened in the beginning when there was nothing was a bunch of things blew up together and created the universe, and that most of those things are no longer existent now, because in that cataclysmic explosion created what we know as the universe. But surely, like, if the universe exists now, then it is continuously going on. I don't fucking know, actually, now. Time goes on forever. I don't think anything can end time. Time is
Wait,
one of
really?
those things where it's like,
Ooh.
yeah. So think about it. So, what would it take to end time? People not recording
Okay.
it? I don't.
No. Okay, so, if we take the theory of black holes, into account, right? They're a singularity. So that means that gravity is, like, at the core of a black hole, gravity is completely, like, fucked, defunct, non-existent. Like, gravity works in a completely different way, right? So, like, time as itself could exist in a completely fucking broken way in a black hole, right?
Hold on. According to general relativity, the event horizon can be crossed, and time would actually keep running in exactly the same way. General relativity also says the density of a black hole is infinite because its volume is formally zero. It is a
Sure. And with infinite density, then it would have infinite gravity and be able to bend space-time at its core, like to a point of zero, right? Like how we have 0 Kelvin, which doesn't really exist within our known, like, physics of the universe. We don't know somewhere where 0 Kelvin exists, but, like, it's theoretically possible, right? I would argue the same thing would be theoretically possible for time in relation to gravity.
So just because time stops doesn't mean it, like, stops existing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Um.
I'm wondering, like, so, and plus, wouldn't this would be, like, incredibly subjective to being in the event horizon? Like, you would need to be in this black hole for time for you to non-existent, but, like, everything outside of you, presumably, is affected by time in the same way.
Sure. Then I guess I would open this up to, like, what if we had, like, just say that, like, inside a black hole we could actually live, right? But time was completely fucked, like, broken, whatever. And, like, human minds are really only meant to go temporally. But let's just say we have, like, a civilization inside of a black hole. Would that civilization be able to, like, conceptualize time, especially outside of the black hole? Or would it be something completely broken and unique to them?
I don't even know what that would look like for them, to be honest. So as I'm reading it, time could get infinitely slow, but if time gets infinitely slow, what does that happen to the beings within inside? These would have to be beings
well-
I don't even know what
in
that
time, right?
I don't even know what that means. What does
Yeah,
it mean
yeah,
by
yeah.
something gets infinitely slow?
Like,
Okay,
that it
so,
stops, right? Or what is it?
Well, it was
Dude,
it
this is
was
why we can't
demonstrated.
comprehend
If you guys,
you can't even comprehend the fourth dimension. What the fuck does time look like?
so it was displayed, like, pretty well in Interstellar. If you've seen it, they
No, it
go
was
to
not.
like.
I saw that movie.
It
too. That
wasn't?
was some shit explanation for me. I don't know. I didn't go into it.
Wait, really? Because it works, like, with physics. If you go to, like, a very high gravity planet, it is bending space-time around it to go slower around that planet. So theoretically, yeah, like, on that planet, time goes slower, but outside, like on Earth, time goes at the same pace.
Yeah.
So, like, people on that planet age at, like, a time relative to that gravity, but people outside of it are still aging at the same time. Or,
Well,
like,
here's
the
the
same
stipulation.
normal time.
Here's the stipulation that's important, though: is there was a set slowdown on that planet. There was not infinitely slow. Does that make sense? So, like,
Sure.
on that planet, it was at a model of, like, 1 to 7 or 1 to 8. Whereas in a black hole, again, like or event horizon, time gets infinitely slow. It's not just like 1 to 7. It's infinitely slow. So this not only like merges the concept of surviving in a black hole, but also what time would look like if it were infinitesimally slower, not just 7 times slower.
Well,
So this kind of compromise.
I think when it gets infinitely slower though, then it ceases to exist, right? Because if time doesn't like actually happen, well, if it gets infinitesimally slow, if it's not actually happening, then like how does that affect the world?
Right. Again, I want to stress, getting infinitely slow does not mean it's not happening, right? There's a difference between
Happenings exist in time, so saying something's happening is requires a context of time, though, right? To say that's what.
Well, but there's no way for us to. Yeah, but there's no way for us to think atemporally, right? There's no way for a human to say that like time doesn't exist because we don't know what the fuck that looks like, right?
No, you're
we
right.
we
But
don't know how to process.
Just because we can't do it does not mean it does not exist. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
We cannot
Yeah.
comprehend what time looks like when it's not working. Does not mean that we can't that time can not work. And it's not even not working. It's just going infinitely slow. Whatever that would look like. I assume this looks like an asymptote where it's just like slowly getting like I could not imagine. Would it stop?
Yeah,
I mean,
time stopping.
Is that like what it would be? Like,
I mean, what I think would happen, right, is that the people at the center of the black hole, assuming that it's actually livable in this like hypothetical, they would look out at the universe. There was a very interesting movie, it's like The Time Cave or something, where the Fountain of Youth is going slower in time, and it goes progressively slower as you get closer to the Fountain of Youth, and that's why people are getting stuck. Whatever. But like as they looked outside the cave, since the cave itself was also like bending time to like a very high rate, they would look up and they would see the sun pass like 7 or 8 times in a minute. And like those were days, right? So like the same thing would probably apply to black holes where you would be looking out, and if you could see out, which you wouldn't be able to because light doesn't escape, but if you could, you would see everything else moving at like an infinitely slow rate, right? That's how it would kind of work. Or at least that's how I think it would work.
I don't fucking know. Shitty thing.
Feels like it goes back to experiencing it to understand it. That's a nice like segue back to what we were talking about at the start. It seems like to expect it to experience it, you'd have to like see it yourself to be able to understand it. So
I'm a hands-on learner, so yeah, I agree with that.
You know what? At the end of my life, if there's cryopreservation and shit, fuck it, dude. Do that and then send me into a black hole I want to experience.
That's the preferred death.
That's the preferred death.
If we found a way to go faster than light, because if you can't go faster than light, you're like the event horizon's gravitational pull will like crunch you into fucking potatoes, mush, or even like slower than that. I'm not even joking. I'm reading it. Like apparently, if you cannot go faster, you will be subject to its gravitational. Is pull even the right word? It's like fucking gravitational tenderizer. Like you just get fucking destroyed. It's like crazy. As I understand it, like I'm not joking. These are like tidal forces that like destroy you. Like it's.
Well,
it's
yeah. Gravity is
death
moving like in a really. It's like
abstract.
like how people used to speak about the Bermuda Triangle and like the weather, right? Like it's always really fucking unpredictable. Like it destroys like all the fucking shit. It makes all your shit go whack. Like nothing really works there. At least that's
which
I
I don't
think.
even think is true, by the way. I don't even.
Which
think
I don't. Yeah, I don't think is true.
The other day, there was, like,
Yeah,
Bermuda
it's like
Triangle isn't as bad as everyone says it is.
yeah, like it's not actually that bad. But like the Sigma around or whatever.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Black holes are cool though. I dig black holes.
I didn't even read the article that I tagged on with it.
I sort of read it. Middle of a lane store, and you see
There's two ways to understand the progression of time. In the first, there is an objectively real present. Events of the past and in the future do not exist. Only the reality. The only thing is the present. This is the idea called present. This idea runs into serious problems. Let's imagine that if you were standing on the ground in the middle of a lightning storm, you see two bolts of lightning hit the ground, one to your left and one to your right. Both bolts were the same distance. Because of this, the light from both bolts had the same distance to travel to you. This leads you to believe that the bolts hit the ground simultaneously. What was the other one?
The light from both bolts. Right. Okay, so... Right, so you're perceiving them to happen simultaneously. But... Okay, so, this is, like, clearly... This is a classic example with, like, stars dying and then us seeing it, like, how many ever billions of years later and then being able to decode, like, okay, this star actually died, like, how many ever billion years ago, and the light just reached us, right? The same thing would apply to this lightning storm, where, like, sure, both of the lightning strikes you perceive them at the same time, but this doesn't really mean that they actually happened at the same time. Right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a whole other thing with airplane passengers seeing it midway between you and the start of it, and they perceive it different because
right.
they were traveling
They
at
would...
two different...
Yeah. Interesting.
The other one's called eternalism. Ooh. Instead, we add in the fourth dimension, time. Whoa.
Oh, this is like getting deep into philosophy stuff. Philosophy memes.
Yeah, we're doing it again.
Other options we have? Minkowski space-time. What is this? Oh, this is an entire fucking... this is an entire fucking thing we should have reviewed before the thing. A three-dimensional Euclidean space. Yeah, so much... Okay, yeah.
Yeah, into a fourth-dimensional manifold, where the space-time interval between any two events is independent of the inertial frame of reference. What the fuck would that even look like?
So... Three-dimensional Euclidean space is what we verify the world by, like, right now. And it's, like, how we view the world. And it would effectively bring the Euclidean, like, third dimension and time into a dimension, like, graph where the... Like, where events would always happen independent of like what's happening in the third dimension, right? In Euclidean space. That would be the inertial frame of reference, I think.
That's how I understood it as well. It's like things will happen at different rates of time, but they'll all happen like simultaneously and not interrupt each other, or like it'll make sense, like, right?
Sure,
It
yeah.
all works out in the end.
It all works out at the end.
Yeah, so the way I understand this, that's a meme, but like I actually made it like the way I understand this is in every in any movie that currently incorporates time travel, including there's always like this big question of like if the people or the users can like use it and there's not like severe restraints put on it, then you always wonder like why didn't they go back sooner or later and stop this problem or change this, or why did these events not happen in this way because they interacted in this way, or XYZ butterfly effect. Is this sort of like stating that that question will have been solved in Minkowski space?
Well, I guess, yeah, it would, right? Because the, I guess another meme like platitude probably, is that time is happening, has already happened, and will continue to happen. Right? That like everything within time has already happened. Like it's already been played out at some point in the universe. There's already the end. But that doesn't mean that time isn't happening for us presently. We're still going.
Yeah.
And that time will, like, even within this end, will, like, even within the end, will, like, I don't know. Maybe it'll keep going. I don't know, some shit. But, like, as far as time travel goes, if someone has the ability to time travel, it's already happened at some point in the time of the universe, right? Like it's already happened. So someone's already figured out if there's all the shit that they're gonna change in the past, that shit's already happened. But like otherwise, that's like, I don't know, kind of clear evidence that there isn't really a time traveling person, or if there is, then it's so hard to detect that we just can't, right?
Wait, let's be clear. So this is its own question. Is that true? Do we all understand time as an entity that is happening now and then happening like in the future, like already happened in the future, and we're just playing out like a sect of it right now? That's
I
not
don't
how
believe in that. I don't
Yeah.
believe in
Really?
I don't believe that there's like a 20-year-old future me that's like playing out his life right now. I believe that like that has not happened yet. Like that if I were to go, say for instance, into the future, like let's say I discovered time travel and I like went into the future, like I don't I don't even fucking know if that could happen. Like I guess that's like sort of my way of answering for that like hypothetical, because like that's never how I understood time. Going back in the past, events that have already happened, I don't even know what that would look like for them. Well, so
It
that,
seems
that
like
is kind of
determinism says that time travel doesn't. It seems when I interpret determinism, for example, right, it doesn't seem time travel can really exist, because from point of view of someone in the past, we would have the same problem as the point of view now to the future. That
Right.
it's almost like a video game, right? That and we're not allowed to progress to like the future levels because we haven't leveled up, and people in the past can't get to where we are because we haven't leveled up yet. We haven't done the whole storyline to be able to go through. But I don't know if we can go because of the same problems they face, sort of thing. That's like the analogy that I can think of to think about it.
Right, so I guess this would expand the question to mean that, like, do you think that we're the first storyline? Because if we're not the first storyline, and there are other dimensions like this that exist, and other people have figured out time travel and all this other weird shit, like, then how does that put perspective in, right? Because it's a possibility.
Solipsism at this point. It seems like I come from,
you're not real.
I'm
Go
me,
away.
and everything's in my head, and you know, I play out life, and it goes along with, and it disappears as soon as I'm dead. And that's it. That's life. All right. That's the easy answer. Okay.
the true egoist.
That's what it seems like it devolves into, and I don't know how I feel about that, but yeah.
I guess I'm just curious. So, since you do believe like in the future, like you think that there is a future, like again, say for instance,
Yeah.
you, and I don't even know what this would look like, but like if you develop time travel now, you think that you could go into the future and that there would be something there, right? Because
Sure,
those
yeah.
events have been playing out. You think that time is like on a spectrum, and that you're just like at one particular data point in it, and that like it is existing outside of your current, I guess, surreal experience right now. That like there
Right.
are other points in time in which things are happening.
Sure, yeah. So, like, time doesn't exist as, like, a line on a graph. It more exists as, like, a circle on a graph. It, like, fucking goes, right? Or maybe not a circle, because that's closed, right? It would have to be, like, fuck. It would be
What about
like
a line with dots on.
these
So
questions
It would
all
be-
feel like
Maybe. I
these
don't.
questions feel like these questions feel like Rorschach questions. Like if somebody could come up to you and ask you like how you think time works, and depending on your answer, they could like judge your emotional state based off that. Like, like how do you think time works? Do you think it's like infinity, or do you think it's finite? Oh, I think it's finite. Okay, you're a negative behavior type, you know, or some shit like because as I'm thinking about it my way, I feel more depressed. Whereas like since world seems a lot more fantastical, where like again like time works on like a spectrum of events that are happening at every given point in time. That I guess like the Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban kind of story could be like where like at the start of the movie they could be witnessing their future selves interacting with themselves, and then as they go through the movie they become their future selves interacting with the past version of themselves, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Like
That
that's
doesn't seem
how I.
logically possible to me.
That,
Well,
like, my
that's the only
paradoxes of
way.
that.
That's the only way I would interpret time travel to be able to work, right? Because if you know you're interacting with yourself, or like there's some point at which time like breaks, or you break time by interacting with yourself, and like then realizing that like you're gonna do that later, and then at that later time you have to do that thing, or else like what the fuck happens? Like it's this very weird loop, right?
Let me be clear.
So like that's how I would imagine, just because I am a determinist, that's how I would imagine time travel to work.
I guess as a determinist myself, I can say that like the only time travel I believe in is the one that we're going through right now. Like I just don't, I can't see of any other way that we could travel through time. I guess in a bit of a doomer take, like I don't know if this is a fair stance. I do think that at some point we could potentially like travel faster than light. I don't know. Is that even possible? I don't know if
Well,
singular, like,
the
organisms
theory
would-
behind traveling faster than light is that there are certain frequencies that can go faster than light without losing the data that's being and the energy that's being transmitted within our universe, and that we would like effectively build an engine that would vibrate or like bring the entirety of like the ship and everything on the ship to that different like frequency, and then would be able to surpass light without without killing ourselves. That's like the
I was
working
gonna
theory.
say that stipulation is the important one because, as I understand it, like no object of matter can do that. Your mass becomes infinite when you travel faster than light. I don't know if, I guess I don't believe in faster than light travel either. So never mind. Sorry, I lied earlier when I said that. I don't think.
Yeah, if that's true, I don't think I believe in it either.
At least right now. Look, these seem like doomer takes. Like as I'm saying this, it feels like I'm like stifling human innovation. So I hope no scientist like takes my words and like as gospel and just never researches these things for sake of appeasing my feeble understanding of reality. Because what the fuck do I know? In 2,000 years, maybe we find the Cardarian crystal that lets us travel into the future or something. It, like breaks through the rules of reality, or the Philosopher's Stone, I guess, might be a little bit more apt. But right now, given the tools that we have available to us right now and all the known elements that exist in the universe, I just don't see how we could ever do. It just doesn't seem plausible.
I don't know.
Yeah, I would look at it within like a logical framework. So like, determinism seems very, well, my theory, I guess, would seem linear, and then we're in the middle of it and everything scrolls by. But, and then, like I said earlier, with the time travel idea that Synth had, was that you could, it seems like even if you were to exist like from the smallest of amount of time in the place that you would have time traveled to, that it would have instantly be logically it'd be logically contradictory because of things like butterfly effect. Simple like air particles could be moved into such, chaos theory then goes, and then massive explosions, boom. Seems like that seems like the problem I'd have with time in any concept. It would seem like a problem under some deterministic framework like that.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, well, the thing is that, like, my explanation kind of goes over that, though, right? Is that if someone has figured out time travel, then within, like, my interpretation of time, then someone's already used it and they've already created those butterfly effects. Maybe that was like the Big Bang or some shit. Who fucking knows? Like maybe they fucked with some shit in the Big. Who knows? Like we can't
Well,
know
you
that
could
thing
cause
until
your
we
own
know
cause.
that time. What?
Could you cause your own cause? Like, could you be a subject to your own birth? Like, would you believe in something like that?
Yeah. Is that possible? I don't know
Oh
what
fuck.
that's-
I feel like I would
believing in
have
time travel,
to.
like-
I
Oh,
feel
man.
like I would have
Yes.
to, right?
But you wouldn't want to, though, right? Like,
Yeah,
this,
I wouldn't
this kind
want
of brings
to.
into the question of like free will, because then like any iteration of you could go back into time and then like change it, and it wouldn't need to just be your own version of yourself, because like you said, time doesn't act as like a one point on a line. For you, it's like a spectrum of multiple different points of time happening all at once. So I feel like, again, not completely tear the walls down here of your theory, but like it just feels like I don't see how it could be, how reality could be tenable in this existence, assuming time travel's already been, you know, figured out by people 20, 30,000 years in the future of us, or aliens, or what.
I mean,
It just seems
okay.
like it's hard to fit it's hard to fit like our existence in the world right now into that box, because like why wouldn't somebody have fucked with it, you know, already?
I mean, sure, that's like the whole thing though, right? Is that
So you're saying that somebody has done that, and this is the
or
result?
well, that somebody may
But
have
then why
done
hasn't
that.
somebody else gone back again and fucked with it again? Like, why aren't we like constantly fading in and out? Why aren't people just constantly fucking with it? Because why wouldn't they?
I mean, I would imagine that at different points of time you would be able to create like different Fuck. No, that goes against determinism. I can't say that. I guess, well, it would go into like multiple reality theory then, right?
Oh.
That like one person would change one thing and then that would change for like that universe. And then if a person in that universe figured out time travel and fucked with a thing in that universe, then like I don't know what would happen to them at that point, because like their time would haven't or wouldn't necessarily exist, but like they would create a new like alternate reality, I guess, and then that would play out.
Then it feels like so there's infinite universes then, or
Yeah, why
infinite
not, dude?
realities, I guess. Yeah, I was gonna say the only
Yeah, why
way I
not,
can see
dude?
this going then is if there's infinite realities, and I guess if you grant that maybe, but like that just seems so not only complex but like also really difficult to describe the specifics of. So is it like any time a world-bending decision is made by a time travelist, like another reality splits right through the fucking continuum, and like then the world is split again, and it's like, all right, like another reality is created? That just seems so hard to, like, comprehend. It just seems so much
I
easier
mean,
just
I
to-
would okay, so I would imagine it more like oh no, Simon's laughing. All right. I would imagine it more like right, so what you said about like us existing within the specific time frame that we exist, right? So we exist within this time frame, within this like causal chain of events, right?
Mhm.
Would you agree with that? So like
Yeah.
this specific causal chain of events needed to happen in order for us to exist in this way. This doesn't mean that like there could be another causal chain of events that is like ours that like would necessarily lead to a different outcome. We wouldn't be able to like know that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Then necessarily after that, if we wouldn't be able to know about these things, then we wouldn't be able to say that like these realities don't exist. There would be like some level of acknowledgement that like these realities could exist, and that like when there are partitions in time, or when there are like these causal chain like defects or whatever, not defects, but like whenever the causal chain is like fucked with, the like that portion exists, right? That our portion of time still exists within our timestamp, even if like that decision or that chain was edited in a different way. We would still experience this time because it's within our subjective experience. That reality still exists.
Yeah. So you're saying that, like, in the beginning, there were infinite universes that exist, and then every one of those universes, all infinite of them, were all destined to have at least one difference in each of them. So in one of the universes, I guess, every single event that has happened to this point happened the exact same way they did, except instead of me picking up the purple toothbrush, I picked up the red one. And then after that decision was made, every other event continued to play out as normal. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's possible, but
This is a
fuck
big
me.
ask.
The term infinity like takes on a whole new meaning for me there, because I mean, again, it seems like you're trying to juxtapose determinism but still maintain like this pseudo concept of free will. And I'm not saying it's not valid, I'm just saying, fuck me, is this like little addendum like incredibly huge to try to, because like for every one of those, like, I pick up the red toothbrush instead of the blue toothbrush, you also have monumental decisions being made. So like in one universe, what if Hitler was never born? Then suddenly you have so many different options that entail from that, and then all of those many different options have their own subset of options, and subset of options from there, and subset of options from there, and there has to be so many different universes. It's crazy. But I mean, fuck it, dude. That could be
It's
possible.
possible.
It's fucking possible.
Memes.
I
No,
won't deny
okay.
the possibility. It just, that is so huge to think about.
I
would
agree.
argue
I
against-
agree, dude.
Wait. I think I'd argue against the possibility of that, because
Nice.
it seems like a core tenet of accepting that world is infinite. Probably not. You couldn't make. I don't even know what we would call that.
You gotta
That
define it's not
idea.
that for you anymore, dude.
That
Oh no, now I
entire
have to define
idea of
infinity.
Fractal infinities off infinities off infinities. You'd probably need infinity there, right? I don't think you could have that idea without infinity.
Wait, okay.
Man, we're waiting on.
Okay. So, I mean, yes, you would probably have to have, like... Well, actually, you know what? No. Fuck your shit. You wouldn't have to have infinity. Because at some point, the universe probably ends, right? It probably expands so much that it's no longer to add, like, decision, or, like, nothing can actually happen within the universe. So, like, you would have just a mass number of, like, entities of universes, right? Maybe not, it wouldn't be infinite, but it would cover all of the decisions and all of the things that would be possible within our universe.
All the decisions possible.
So it wouldn't be infinite. It wouldn't be infinite. Fuck you.
This is like the argument against.
This is like mental
God
gymnastics.
being
I
all-powerful. This is like the argument
Do you feel
against
bad
God
doing
being
this?
all-powerful.
Yes, I
It's
do.
Like, instead of God being all-powerful, he's actually maximally powerful. So instead of having infinite amount of universes, there's just a maximally amount of universes with a maximally amount of different things spanning off those individual ones. This seems this is a huge pill to swallow right now. That it seems
okay.
like you're gonna need a lot
That's-
of water to swallow.
that's the size of the red pill, my dude. It's okay. I got
think
you.
it's-
I'll bring
I
you.
think it's
I'll
just
bring you to
simpler.
reality.
It's simpler,
Bring you to
okay?
reality.
We just live on one string.
I really just want to. I want to really just like make sense swallow this pills. In your hypothetical universe,
Oh no.
Well, in your hypothetical reality in which there are infinitesimal realities, you are again like conceding that there is one reality chain in which the universe, say for instance, developed from like divine command theory, and there is a god, and that god is like the god of the Christian Bible, and that god is, I guess, very much real, very much alive. Jesus never died, or maybe he came back. He came back in the year of 2000 or some shit like that. And every single event is playing out in such a like catastrophic, like a like mind-bendingly different way. And for all of those different decisions being made, there's so many. I think this is called the chess problem, where like the amount of decisions that you have in chess after the very first move expands beyond like the original, I think, 20 to 1,000 or some shit like
yeah,
that. I
it
can't
gets
remember.
a lot bigger. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen that
it's
before.
so much bigger. It's like the idea behind why chess can never be figured out is that you're playing this game with reality, with the universe, with everything we know about it and everything we don't know about it. And so like you're I'm not saying this is impossible, but I really want to stress you are like adding so this is a very big amount. And I would indeed say infinity if there was ever like worthy application of the term. You are adding infinity realities into the way in which like time can play out. And you're saying that this all happened either like at the start, or I guess in my original hypothesis, this happens like every time somebody makes a decision that they otherwise, I guess in a time travel existent universe, they could have made a different one. Like it just seems this is very like difficult to grasp.
I
Not
agree.
possible.
Interesting question. After that, right? Let's say you were able to freely hop between any of these points and any of these lines,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Do you still have a personal philosophy at the end of the if everything is conceivable, possible, and applicable in all of these separate worlds, so that there is a God in this one universe, there is a Jesus here, this one sect of Christianity is true, Judeo-Christian values are here, do you still have a personal belief system if they're logically possible and next to each other?
Well, I would imagine that like within our universe there are like within the starting of our universe there is like the ramifications that are set out by like the universe itself, right? It would always follow the physics. It would always follow the same like space-time shit. It would always follow the same like kinds of things, right? So the same ideas would probably end up being true, even if the ones that are influenced earlier are like so like it wouldn't necessarily mean that like a god created this one universe, even though you could interpret it that way. It wouldn't necessarily mean that like Christianity is true in this one universe, because it's not necessarily true, though we don't know.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't mean that like all these things would necessarily be true. It means that like
So all the metaphysics would still be the same.
right, all the
simply put.
metaphysics would still be the same because humans would still exist in the same manner that they exist, right?
So how are they different? If reality, if the same, if
different.
the metaphysics is the same, how are they?
Well, he was
Because-
saying, or they were saying that it was based off of time travel, right? Is that time travel would be the right? That would be the difference between all the different realities.
Right, yeah. So if time travel
'Cause
exists,
you weren't really trying to fit free will into this, right?
not
You were
really,
just,
but
like you were just interested. I thought you were just interested.
it
in
sort of
certain
turned into a compatibilism argument.
a little bit, yeah. Okay, so the number is called the Shannon number. It's 10 to the power of 120, and that's the possible number of chess moves that, like, sorry, the lower bound possible number of chess moves that you can make. I think after the first move made by white, right? Yeah. Based on an average of about 10 to the power of 3 possibilities for a pair of. Oh, never mind. Sorry, that's the lower bound number of moves that you can make in any average chess game. I'll just
I was
read
going
it.
to say
Conservative lower bound.
amount afterwards. Yeah.
It's the conservative lower bound of the game tree complexity of chess, which is 10 to the power of 120, based on an average of about 10 to the power of 3 possibilities for a pair of moves of a move for white followed by one for black. In a typical game of lasting about 40 such pairs of move. So it just seems like if there's this many possibilities just within the game of chess alone, that like trying to play this sort of game with the universe, insofar as allowing for the universe to be existent at all periods of time. Even right now in our timeline, if we went back a million years, there are like Paleolithic Neanderthals that are like still doing things because that time is on a spectrum. Just because we want to assume that in the future there are people that have like explored the Kadarian crystal and tapped its power to unlock time travel and could go back at this point in time and interfere with our reality, and that would create its own reality. And then in a different reality, they went back this far and messed with this reality, and that's why that reality exists in that way, and so on and so forth until you've explained every different possible difference in said realities, and you've used time travel to explain all these differences. That the number of realities that you would have would be nothing short of infinity. I don't think it could be anything but infinity. because of all of the different ways in which reality would have to play up until that point in which time travel was
Right.
like discovered, unless it was like constrained in some way. If like they could, even then, like what would it be constrained by?
Sure. Um, well, this is also taking for granted the premise that time travel is like possible, which I don't know. I think through quantum fuckery it might be possible, like possibly, but I'm not really sure about the transference of information from one position in time to another. Like I'm not sure how that would work. So this is like kind of all on a theoretical that time travel actually exists.
Yeah.
But like, it does seem like the never-ending fucking answer of the train, though. I don't know. I agree. um, like I could explain all these things with time travel, but like at the same time, like the universe could just exist in the way that it does. Like that is true. I agree.
It kind of seems doomer though. Like I don't want to discount the possibilities of these things because like we're saying these things now, and Synth, you're taking the like I guess seen as like the extreme position. Go in the future 6,000 years, archive this one particular VOD, and see the researchers then dig it up, and they're like praising you, like fucking bowing down to your possibility. Like it was because of these sorts of thinkers that we were able to uncover the possibility.
Yeah,
like
and then
indeed,
when my
like,
consciousness is like existent in the fourth dimension with like all the
Yeah.
other fucking consciousnesses that we're all just fucking uplinked to, fucking
Yeah,
celebrating. I
or,
don't know, dude.
uploaded to the, as for backward time travel, it is possible to find solutions in general relativity that allow for it, such as a rotating black. Traveling to an arbitrary point in space-time has a very limited support in theoretical physics and is usually connected only with quantum mechanics or warmth, also known as
Yep.
Einstein-Rosen bridges.
Yep, that's why I said. That's why I said.
Well, yeah. So again, like you could fit your theory into this so far. I mean, as far as we know of it now, maybe there will be like some sort of uncovering of the truth, and then maybe that truth will be determined.
Yeah,
by.
Sure.
Who knows, right? Science
Sure.
always evolves.
Yeah, I
Right,
agree. Right.
this seems
I'm
really-
well. I guess this is my approach to like every system though. Is like I would rather create like the perfect system that can account for like every possibility, rather than like creating the system that like works pretty well in the time, and then like doesn't account for the possibilities and then kind of breaks whenever the possibilities happens. Right.
Oh damn! Have you considered converting over to a religion? 'Cause,
Yeah, they do that.
yeah, that's probably the best way to explain human flight right now is to believe in the Salem witch trials. No, I'm fucking around. I'm joking. No, yeah, I mean, this is why I eventually became more agnostic as opposed to like a gnostic atheist, which was what I was when I was first like an 18 or 19-year-old. Deconverted or like I guess de-radical. I was never radical, but like deconverted away from like Christianity, and I was originally like an anti-theist, like staunch Gnostic atheist. Like I like I couldn't believe my parents were lying to me. I couldn't believe all these. I've eventually settled that it's probably a lot better to not speak of the unknown unknowns of the universe and just like allow for science to potentially have like a carrot sticks chance in hell of being wrong than say like with absolute certainty there is no God, right? I guess this is I'm gonna cringe when I say this, but like I'm a skeptic as a result of that.
Oh boy.
I'm an asynth agnostic. That's what I am. It sounds like you just like created the foundation of metaphysics. That's what it sounds like.
Look, I don't know, dude. Wait, Simon, you know that I just add random complexity to shit that doesn't really need it. You've like heard me argue.
I know. Yeah. I'm just a simple determinist with my small in my one universe in my own head.
All right.
Always.
So, if we want to get away from berating me about my view of time for this, probably look at actually, yeah, teaching philosophy at a young age. This will be like the last topic that we go over. Um, so like,
Oh.
yeah, do you think it's important? Could it be damaging, or is it even really like possible for small children to learn philosophy? Right?
I think and I've been saying this for a while. I think sentential and like formal logic should be taught at like a middle or a high school, at least offered as a middle or like a high school level class. I think people need to learn to argue better.
Yep,
And I
I
think those
agree.
are like the best ways. Yeah, if you're talking about like epistemology or or metaphysics or like meta ethics, then fuck that noise. Okay, I think you should be forced to pay like double in a college level course to fucking take those classes, because fuck that shit. I don't regret it. I am better probably for it, but god damn, like to think that I think it was like $1,400 on a course that I could have just as easily gained as much information of like surfing through Wikipedia articles is like really insulting. They should actively dissuade people from like studying ethics, in my opinion. But when it comes to like formal logic, and this is I don't fucking grandstand here for too long, but like you can kind of see where like like I don't really think there's a divide between continental and analytical philosophy. I feel like those are buzzwords for the most part. But when it comes to the applications of philosophy, like there's no denying that there's certain parts of it that are just like infinitely more useful, at least in the job setting, than. And I guess if we're going to continue to operate in a capitalist framework and like fuck little guy society, then I definitely do not think that things like ethics and things like meta ethics, especially, or like epistemological thought need to like continue in a $1,400 college classroom framework. That just seems like an egregious waste of money to me.
Sure. I don't know. I think that there's some value on like, maybe not like an entire ethics class, but we should probably teach ethics to people to like not have them like beat the shit out of each other and bully people. I mean, like maybe ethics could like help with that.
Yeah. Well,
like actually understanding like what is the negative well-being that I'm causing. What are the like what are the ethics behind actually doing this action, and then like what would it actually be good for me to do, and like that might add like a guiding conscience to some people. Like not that it needs to be a giant fucking course, but like some level of ethics is probably pretty good for like
don't make
young
them read the
people.
critique, for example. Like, teach
Yeah.
them what a categorical imperative is. No need for that.
Like, I mean, I agree that like you can learn all the shit from ethics and epistemology on Wikipedia and like just from Google Scholar if you pay money, or if you just like pirate a bunch of shit. You could probably learn those fields just as well as if you went to school for them. But like really young in life, I think it'd probably be important to like get children start thinking about like morals and how they would deal with situations with other people, and like
they are usually just
that kind of thing.
not existent.
Well, yeah, little kids like basically don't have morals, which is fine because
They're
we don't
imposed on.
like expect.
Like,
Yeah,
they-
morals. Right.
Yeah,
We impose society's morals on them, and we teach them morals that way. We don't teach them philosophy and say, "Hey, you can derive your morals from this."
Yeah, well, yeah. I guess it's probably more apt to say that we either teach them like consequentialism, indirectly, or we teach them
Right,
like
yeah.
deontology indirectly through raising them as Christians and saying like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. These are like this is basic deontological ethics, but we don't formally teach them these things. What I would much rather do, if we are interested in actually like ascribing morals to children, this is like, I'm not a tanky in any means, like any way, shape, or form, but this is like the closest I'll ever get to tankyism. Completely abolish religion, and then like replace all of that bullshit, like your kids get to learn religion, and just replace all that with like philosophical thought. Like instead of like indirectly teaching your kids these philosophical concepts through religion, which is where most people get their their introduction to ethics, actually teach them introduction to ethics. I would be more comfortable with that. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no parent in their right mind would ever fucking get down with that, even though that seems to be infinitely superior, in my opinion, of course. Although, of course, like Christians would disagree with me heavily because this is like widely why I stepped away from Christianity. But like after you learn of the faults of deontology, I think generally speaking, this is where people that are still like Christian need to like extreme apologies or just step away from the church as a result of it, right? As you start to understand that, like, hey, what if God is this? What if God is that? What I have in God is literally faith. Faith is in most realms of thought completely fucked. There's no reason to hold. Yeah. But when it comes, again, I want to stress when it comes to sentential and like, or when it comes to like sentential logic, formal logic, the way that people learn, I guess, to write argumentation out, things like hook, tribar, or biconditional, suppositional. I'm kind of spouting off nonsense here, but when it comes to that form of logic, I'm much more in favor of that getting taught like in a high school level course, or at least because I think that stuff is very useful.
I agree, 100%. I wish I knew what I knew a long time ago.
I agree.
Simply put.
Yeah, if I had the option to like teach my kid, well, I mean, I do have the option. I think as a parent, I'll probably teach my kids like morals and philosophy and shit whenever they're really young so that they understand how to interpret like I don't know, even just reading passages. Holy shit. Like it just helps you with reading and analyzation of like concepts and like the being able to understand concepts in school and stuff like that, right?
I think there's a lot of value to philosophy, but I think there's a lot of philosophy that does not have value, if that makes sense. Like, there's certain schools of thought in philosophy. I call them schools of thought only because of how broad the topic of philosophy is, right? It stems into like every other field of academia. There's philosophy of law, philosophy of science, philosophy of mathematics, philosophy of I think I already said law, but yeah, there's so many different realms. Yeah, so many different realms of philosophy that I think it is important that people get a grasp on the basics of how to at least argue and like form sentences in a cohesive, in a non-contradictory way, for instance. But when it comes to, again, the philosophy of like ethics, or the philosophy of thought, or the philosophy of, I guess, of epistemology, it just doesn't. I don't need Jimmy, who's in 8th grade, learning about Descartes' meditations and questioning.
Yeah.
That's unnecessary. And I can think of at least many different classes that I'd rather he be taking than that. You know, like I did not feel like it was really cool for me when I was taking that in college, but I couldn't help but think like, man, I spent $1,400 on that. Fuck, I've been thinking these thoughts on my like when I was walking. When I used to walk home from school, I used to think about this shit occasionally. And like, sure, he goes into more depth of it than I do, but come on, this is some bullshit. Like, I paid money for this, you know? Fuck this shit.
Yeah.
I could learn this shit on my own time, or I could explore these things on my own time and look these guys up on my own time, I feel like. But
Yeah.
philosophy is, hey, I'll do a little dig here, Synth, because you and I can especially, I think, love this. Mark, this is something that really triggers me about like Mark and Frames. They say philosophy is garbage, and I'm like determined to show them that it's not. Okay, philosophy is not garbage. Okay, sentential logic is like very much what we all argue in, whether we acknowledge it or not. Okay, and people that say that are fuck, they're dumb. Okay, they're dumb. I'm sorry to say it. You can know all the facts in the world, but look like a fucking idiot when it comes to rhetoric, because like you don't know how to call things out correctly, and you don't know how to argue things correctly. And so yeah, when it comes to philosophy of, well, I guess the most rigid applications of this we see that are in like philosophy of language and the philosophy of law, or like the applied ways in which argue for certain positions and recognize things like contradictions. And I feel like this is where it's most important. So
That sounds a good product of actually when he had that conversation with Rem after that whole fiasco, and he's like, well, can you just kind of tell me this? And he kind of resulted to that sort of opinion. It was like, can you just tell me like the sort of right thing to do rather than looking at it himself and evaluate it?
Yeah.
Like he said, I think he said countless times, it's like, I don't know what my moral system is. It's all over the place. It's like, you should probably nail something like that down as you're like, a big political figure. I think I was probably on Rem's side when he was talking about that.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was very gatekeepy at the start of that whole conversation.
Yeah.
But it seemed to trickle through his point rather than, you know, that anyone can go pick up philosophy, they need a library card. But I don't think I agree with that exactly, because, you know, you don't know exactly what to look for when you go into a library. But his base point that you should probably know when you're big enough that to be responsible about what your platform, you should probably know the ideas behind it rather than just touting stuff.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's kind of interesting, yeah, because like I do generally see Rem as like a big gatekeeper into philosophy, and especially the way by which he usually not practices, I guess teaches it,
Mhm.
it comes off probably as like a certain. And this isn't an entire like critique of Rem too, because I also recognize like different styles, different optics work for different people. So it's not to say that Rem is like the bad philosophy guy or whatever, but that he kind of has a monopoly over Twitch philosophy, which is something I'd like to see changed up by other people getting into the.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
That's why we're
maybe
here.
Rem kind of discourages people, especially by doing that when he comes off in the very gatekeeping manner that he does. But I will agree
Right,
with
yeah.
him that somebody like Hassan is pretty morally lucky for the positions that he has, given how like ungrounded he is. I guess, in his
Yeah.
ethics or whatever. And I think maybe I think maybe especially Irish Laddie or Bosch has, I think, explored that a little bit more. I don't know too much about Hassan, like reading into philosophy, but I know that, I mean, I just watched the entirety of the Sargon of Akkad versus Bosch debate. It felt like Bosch was more rhetorically sound. So I'll say that I think Bosch kind of took some criticism to that, even if he's not a huge fan of Ram still. I think Bosch read up on a little bit of at least rhetoric, maybe not like moral or epistemological thought, but at least in terms of like how to argue. But then again, that's just kind of the same kind of philosophy that I'm arguing for. So I don't know. When it comes to moral frameworks, I think you can say that you're like, I don't know. I don't think there needs to be like this big qualification background similar to like labels, like political labels. When people start conversations with each other, like, okay, I'm a sock dem, and then like in the same breath you say, I'm a sock dem. Scientific anti-realist. Like, I don't think we need to do that in sessions where we like give all of our like epistemological and moral and fucking ontological frameworks before we enter a conversation. I think we can kind of just enter a conversation and scope these things out as we conversate. But when it does come to at least making sure that your arguments are sound, I think rhetoric can only do people justice, and that's why it should be taught in schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, also, like, philosophy just provides us with, like, a framework by which we can evaluate the world. And I think by, like, giving a younger child, like, the tools of utilitarianism, or the tools of, like, well, maybe not giving a psychopath the tools of egoism, but, like, giving young children these tools by which to evaluate the world efficiently and like be able to maximize happiness or whatever it is they really want to do. I mean, at some level, I think that it might hurt people because more people are gonna figure out earlier, like how to actually, I don't know, frame things in different ways, right? Like they could figure out from like a friend, they could talk to a friend and then like half truth represent that person, except they would be able to do it infinitely better because they can like analyze what that person said and then like just really fucking make up some weird shit with it. It seems like there's like two sides to the coin, and the evil side is also there, but like the good, like where we're just giving people tools, is like also there, I guess.
Feels like a rhetoric class would probably be more applicable than a logic. Well, maybe a logic class is alongside with it, but like rather than like an ethics class, you teach them how to learn for themselves, which would probably help the normal schooling as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said,
come to their own decision.
Like I said, I would feel really uncomfortable, or not uncomfortable. I would feel like hesitant to say that like, all 8th graders or all 10th graders or all 12th graders or whatever grade it would be should learn ethics, or at least an introduction to ethics. And then in the same vein, epistemology. I would feel really like not uncomfortable, but at least like hesitant to say that everybody should learn epistemology 101 or introduction to thought, just because of how abstract those fields are, and again, especially how I'm saying the same thing twice. Fuck it. I'm engaging in tautologies here. They're just very. It's not to say they're not applied, but it's unclear to me whether or not somebody needs a moral framework to operate within society. Whereas something like being able to form an argument in a cohesive manner, one that does not step on its own toes, i.e., or fall into some sort of like intellectual trapping, such as like a fallacy, especially a formal fallacy. Those feel like meeting people that know how to do that or not do that, like avoid those trappings, is so rare these days. It feels like for me. and whatever, I'm in my own like echo chamber or bubble, or maybe I'm like grandstanding a little bit too hard here. Maybe I do it just as often as other people. I'd like to think I don't. Okay, I like to think that I have a basic understanding of how to argue and formulate positions that are somewhat grounded in I guess a fucking axiom, so to speak. And it feels like other people don't know how to do that, and that's I guess all I really crave out of teaching philosophy to kids. When it comes to, again, those other more abstract realms of philosophy that are certainly important, mind, the philosophy of ethics or the philosophy of thought, I am in favor. I would encourage people to look into those, but only really on their own time, just because of how abstract they are in data, and especially like how much of a fucking waste of money they could be. From everybody's point of view, if we started administering these classes to like children or again even like to people in college, like I think, Synth, you probably in your curriculum are forced to take some level of advanced or applied ethics, just
Yes.
to get my minor in philosophy. I had fuck me, like fuck those classes. Like I took them, I enjoyed them for what they were, but it just felt like massive wastes of money, because it's like other than learning a few names and some pretty abstract ways, mind you, of thinking about these concepts, it's like I think the general, like I think most people are probably utilitarians. I would have to look at polling data for this, and especially I don't know if like polling data for this can really bear out in a super strict way to demonstrate it, but I think most people are probably utilitarians in some form or fashion, be it classic,
Sure.
rule, or some like negative postulation of utilitarian. I think most people are probably a form of utilitarian and they don't realize it. Well, if they're not like a deontologist, right? Most people are
Sure.
either some believer of God and some divine command, or utilitarian. They just want to see as many people be as happy as possible. I don't think I need people going through high school forced to take a course to learn that, where they could learn a different science or a different field of education.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at that point I would like I would encourage more like philosophy clubs and like philosophy groups, or like just somewhere to actually hammer down the ideas, right? It wouldn't have to necessarily be like something big for like schools or anything, but like just something like extracurricular to take that like isn't necessarily like hard fucking logic and shit like that. That is just like, I don't know, random epistemology or random theology or random like just random philosophy shit, and that would of course be up to the schools. But like at that point, like I I think these things are important to the people who want to learn them, and I think they should probably be a little bit more readily available than just at least as far as I can see, um, basically just having to go on Wikipedia and then find some people online and having to talk about it with randos. Um, I mean, that's how I see philosophy working right now. Unless you're in college in America and like you're in the philosophy department and like you're associating with those people, right?
Yeah. Fusions, where the fuck do you get these stats? Because every time I look for them, I can't find them, and I'm so triggered.
There was a thing I found a while ago that was
Did you
just
study?
a page to every.
Yeah.
That they asked like a list of like 30 questions.
It was to philosophy
No.
grad students, right?
I forget the breakdown, but I think it's all on that page.
Was
I also
it,
looked at, like 50% of people are moral realists as well. That was very surprising.
yeah, the social turn in moral psychology, right? Was that the book? Because I think you linked this stat to me before, like
Yeah.
one time, like several weeks back.
It was the scientific anti.
Yeah. That's what. And I was actually wrong on that. I imagine my understanding of the scientific grad community, or sorry, of the philosophy grad community was off in that. But yeah, knowing at least insofar as like if these stats on normative ethics apply to most philosophy grad students, I would imagine that they probably bear out maybe even like more in favor of deontology and consequentialism if you ask the general public. That's what I would imagine. If the majority of the world, I think the majority of the world still believes in God, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty sure. I think that's true.
60% or some shit, or no, it's 53% of Canadians believe in God. Come on, just give me the overall stat. I mean, there's a fuck ton of Muslims out there, and I think the Muslim ideology is generally like Christian deontological thought, with few exceptions. It's still like Allah giving you rules most of them are just bad or good based off the fact that he says that they're bad or good, or they say they're bad or good. It's like basic deontology, I think.
Yeah. I mean, isn't almost every religion is deontology, isn't it?
Just a set of rules.
Except for the
usually, yeah.
karma religions, maybe. But
I
even
was gonna say,
those
there's
are
some-
just consequentialism and deontology, I think.
I think you get into some weird ones where they don't like ascribe. So Buddhism isn't even a religion; it's a philosophy. But it doesn't. I
Yeah.
don't think Buddhism ascribes like a normative value for ethics. Like it doesn't state that like I could be wrong on this, but I don't think when you kill somebody and like if you're a Buddhist and you kill somebody, I don't know if it's clear that you again it's not a religion. So fuck it, and maybe it's not even worth talking about. But like Jainism, I know that there's some Eastern religions out there that might have I don't know. Is it a contradiction to follow a religion and not get your values from it? I could be wrong about this because maybe a religion is like the entire idea behind believing in a god.
Yeah.
Like religion just means that you believe in worship in a god, right? And why would you do that if you're not trying to ascribe value? Yeah. Is it possible to believe in a god but not draw your morals from him? That's an interesting question, I think.
Well, yeah, because you could believe in his existence, but you could not accept him endowing, I guess. You could have problems
Right.
with the morals that God opposes, I guess. Well, opposes, not opposes.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to wonder like who would do that though. Who would say like I believe in the Christian God, I believe in the Yahweh, the
Satanists.
But
But yeah, that's an idea.
does a Satanist even believe in? Because I thought you could believe in like.
Yeah, they believe in God.
Leviathan. Go on.
Wait, yeah, Satanists believe in God and the devil. They just believe that the devil is better to worship, as far as I understand.
Some staunch anti-theists could be like that as well. So they they would even admit that they could accept a revelation of God, but doesn't mean that they would accept the morals endowed by.
Yeah. I suppose it'd be possible.
Seem really dumb, but yeah, it's probably true. It can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool stuff. But
I
yeah,
guess this gets
overall.
into, like I think this gets into natural law theory then, right? Where there's or natural order or something where you don't it's not clear I think to a natural law theorist that you need a god. I could be wrong. Or maybe you do. Historically, natural law refers to the use of reason to analyze human nature to deduce binding rules of moral behavior from nature's God's creation of reality or in mankind. So yeah. I
Yeah,
guess
naturalists could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah, you just derive your morals from like nature, or I get yeah, and that's still like a codified form of deontology, right? That's still saying like, oh, because it is this way, it shall always be this way. You're instead of deriving your morals from God, you're deriving it from like history, or I guess the way the universe is now, etc. This could be like one big appeal to tradition, I guess, if you want to state that. Yeah, I guess it's possible to be a deontologist and not believe in God, right? Through things like natural law. I just
yeah.
see it most commonly it pops up in the God question, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, which is
Well, that would be like the main argument from like religion's point of view. Thanks for the follow,
what,
Bailey.
Kantian ethics or
Would be deontology, right? Because like all of it is
Would be
done
divine
by. Yeah, but that's
deontology
like.
has different philosophies. So deontology isn't just divine command theory. Deontology is not
Right.
just believing in God. I think we just established
Yeah.
that, right? You could have
Yeah,
natural
yeah,
law
yeah.
theory. You could have contemporary deontology. You could have Kant. Generally speaking, though, if you're a deontologist in the world of today, again, maybe Fusions has some stats on this for me, but I'd be interested. Most Muslims, most Christians probably comprise of most deontologists. That's
I don't have that.
Yeah. I would assume most deontologists are not Kantian thinkers. They're probably just Christians and Muslims. There's like 1.5 billion Muslims out there. I doubt there's 1.5 billion smart not smart, but people that are thinking, I just really like Kantian ethics. That's why I'm a deontologist. I doubt it. people, and again, like as if to assume Kant was even like right, like to think that like you could be sitting there and think, man, the categorical imperative is how I should live my life. If I have a Jew stowed away in my basement, I need to give him up. Like I just can't lie to this Nazi. It sucks to be him, but like for me to lie would be to say that the entire world would be able to lie. So I'll give him up. Like no, most deontologists are probably natural law theorists or divine command theorists of either Muslim or Christian persuasion. I would assume, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that.
It's with the evaluation that you had for the Jew in the basement example. Well, when you said before that to be able to, for me to lie, it means that everyone else should be able to lie. That sounds like a utilitarian evaluation.
No, that's the categorical imperative. That's what Kant said. So that is the big distinction between utilitarianism and the categorical imperative. Is that the categorical imperative is about, I can see the crossover, but it's about formulating a maxim or like several maxims by which you intend the entire world to exist on. It's like a universal law. If I break this law, I am allowing other people to break this law by breaking this very thing that I have said that like no one should break. So it's very much like not based on like maximizing individual happiness, because I mean it's very easy for a utilitarian to say like I should hide this Jew, because the Nazis are never like, the Nazis knocking on my door aren't going to be made like significantly happier by finding this Jew, but this Jew will be infinitely happier. Like they won't fucking die. Whereas again, like a Kant, like that was the big thing that people pushed Kant on, or at least Kantian principle, because I don't know if they ever actually talked to him about this, was like the Nazi and the Jew or the Jew in the basement question. Okay, so would Kant seriously just give the Jew up in the basement? And deontologists had to, like Kantians had to say, well, I guess we would. Fuck, like we can't fucking lie. That's our fucking imperative, man. We have to stay true. But yeah, I guess give the Jew up, man. Kill him. Not to say you should. I'm just don't kill him.
Deontology.
Yeah.
Does he explain how you choose maxim?
It's based on things that you don't want anybody to do. So his big ones were not lying, or not stealing, and not killing. Because if I allow a world in which I am allowed, like if I allow myself to kill somebody else, then it's based on principles that you would never want to see anybody else, or that you would not want the entire world to do. If that makes sense. Let me look up the strict definition of.
So I guess it would be like the extreme version of reciprocated values. Like reciprocated values, but you apply it to literally fucking everyone in the universe.
Yeah.
Or everyone on the planet, right?
Exactly. It's an unconditional moral obligation which is binding in all circumstances and is not dependent on a person's inclination or purpose. Again, think about that. You can never lie. There's never a world in which you can lie. Like that's pretty fucking
I mean, yeah, I agree.
I remember reading that originally, I was like, man, that's so cool. Like, that's fucking big. But then I was like, no, that's just dumb. Like, that's cool.
I mean, yeah, because like, well, that's the thing, right? Is that like, what if like you're in a situation and like, yeah, you could literally influence a life. Like you could cause a life to be ended or like continued by your lying. And then it would be really hard to convince me to like not let that life continue, to not like lie for a life. Like or like I guess the moral weight that he gives lying is just insane, right? Like the moral weight that he gives actions is just insane, and like it seems like it's overvalued. Yeah, they're maxims. Whatever.
Maxims. So again, I want to really stress, I never met Kant. I don't know if Kant developed. I don't know if Kant developed his own maxims around not lying. I know stealing was, or I think killing was one of them. And then in his own, Kant had several books, and I read part of one for Spark Notes. I don't fucking buy books for college because. Well, I didn't buy many books for college because after my first year, I was spending $500 on books in addition to the $4,000 on tuition. I was like, fuck that. I'll just Spark Notes things. But one of the maxims that he applied was killing, and I think that's probably, if you're going to develop a maxim, I think that's like the one that most of us could probably get behind, because most of us probably have never had to kill a human. But when it comes to lying and stealing, like fuck that, dude. Like I can develop like fucking in this capitalist society, okay, if you give me like $100 from a billionaire, I'm gonna take that shit. And same with again lying. Like if I have a Jew in my basement, all right, I'm sorry Nazis, but you guys are getting lied to, and I'm not sorry. Actually, fuck you guys. You know what I mean? Like the categorical imperative, for as powerful and cool as it sounds, it is is deeply, and yeah, it's not a cool meme. it's a cool meme. I'm just kidding. It's a cool meme. It's something that I think, yeah, if you want to explore, if you want to look into ethics, it's something that we should do. But like, to teach this to kids, imagine a kid taking the categorical imperative and like actually living their fucking life by it. Like, imagine a fucking 21st century content. Like, that's a scary thought to me. To imagine somebody who walks around life with certain maxims that they'll never break under any circumstance. That's almost scary to me. I don't know.
Right. Well, what
Looks
if
like
they
it would
even?
work if
What if they
everyone
even?
else believed it. That's
Yeah,
the-
like, what if they
Like-
had some really fucked maxims too? Like they had this one where like they would always lie if it would get them a better outcome, right? Where like it's consequentialism, but like they would lie to get the
Yes,
like the best outcome, or like their maxim
You have to-
is like getting the best outcome.
You have to
Then
be
it basically
careful.
turns into like utilitarianism.
No, you have to be really careful. The point of the categorical imperative for Kant was to devise a rule by which everybody could live life and have a better life for it, if that makes sense. Or again, that seems like utilitarianism. I'm not trying to don't let me put too much stock on this, because it's hard for me to find it. But the idea of it is a rule by which no, okay. According to Kant, sentient beings occupy a special place in creation, and morality can be summed up in an or ultimate commandment of reason, from which all duties and obligations derive. He defined an imperative as any proposition declaring an action or inaction to be necessary. Yeah. Hypothetical imperatives. So there's a difference between the hypothetical and the categorical. The hypothetical depends on the individual that you're giving the imperative to, and their desires. The hypothetical imperative is like, hey, you should drink some water. Well, that's contingent on the hypothetical that the individual in question wants to quench their thirst. If they don't want to quench their thirst, they don't need to drink that water. The categorical imperative is unbending. It's like, hey, you should not steal from the bank. It's like, doesn't matter if you want to make more money. Like, this is a categorical imperative. You cannot break this. Like, this is a rule, like, of the universe, so to speak, or of I guess our species, if that makes sense. Again, it wasn't clear to me whether or not Kant was trying to say that this came from God. I don't think he was trying to say that it came from God. I think he was trying to find, because again, I mean, Kantianism is different than divine command theory for a reason. I don't think these rules are supposed to come from God, but they seem very arbitrary. And again, when you really put them up against scrutiny, like never lie, like, come on. All three of us can think of it very easy areas in which you want to lie, right? Like, you just cheated on your girl and you don't want to lie to them, or I'm just fucking around. But like, you don't want to lie against, say for instance, to some.
Are we projecting from your own life here?
I'm just fucking around. there are some instances, of course, where lying is acceptable. Like, it's probably, if you believe in morals, probably morally correct to do so. So again, this is where, like, to me, Kantianism falls apart, and where Kant as a whole is.
Yeah, I
21st
think I
century
generally agree.
review of Kant. He's a good gamer.
Yeah.
He's a good
he
memer.
was. I mean, so one thing I actually recently learned looking into, like, the bell curve, and not because of me hating black people. I'm trying to, like, find a codified way of debunking race real. And reading into this stuff, I didn't know this at first. Kant and Hume were fucking brain-sized memers. These guys fucking hated black people. I mean, no surprise here, right? They were big on phrenology. They thought bumps on the head could be measured. We've all probably heard, like, Newton believed in alchemy, but, like, I kind of knew that Hume was a racist before, because in my classes I remember learning a little bit about it, but I never knew Kant was, like, big on the brain size, bumps on the head, skull phrenology. So yeah, fuck these guys, okay? It's cool to read into their philosophy, but, like, fuck these guys individually, okay? No joke about that.
As long as the art is consistent and makes good results.
Yeah.
I don't care where it comes from.
Yeah. The death of the author, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
But Kant was probably a racist, and again, like, Hume certainly was too. Despite, again, I mean, again, like, these were very influential philosophers. It's not like we throw them away and say, like, everything about inductive reasoning is pointless because it came from a racist. But yeah.
I mean, that reason alone is bad, but
Yeah.
wow.
I mean, cool.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they came from the 17th century, I guess. Well, Hume did, or no, Hume was from the 18th century. He was
Yeah, Hume was 18th.
It's like early classical, right? Or some shit. Yeah.
I want to say Kant
trying
was
to read the
1700s. Or was Kant 1800s?
Kant was 1800s.
Kant was 1724 all the way up to 1804. I was
Yep.
damn 80
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
respective.
Yeah, I thought he was
Wait,
1700s.
1800s because he lives up until 1804. That doesn't count. You think this guy's work
I
was
said
mostly
Fuck off,
nearly,
Simon.
I say
Fuck
I
it.
was right.
The last 4 years of his life was when the categorical imperative came out. Get the fuck out of here, okay? All of his work was done when he was in his 40s and 50s.
4 years before he died, exactly.
Kant's, this shit was 1788. You could say late 1700s, but like get out of here with this fucking nailed it with the
I said
1800s.
Nailed it with the 8.
Alright, I said nail it. I was close. I didn't say
Fair enough.
I tried reading the critique. I don't like the first 10 pages. It was a good read, but incredibly dense. And I had to like...
This
Yeah,
one?
critique for your reason.
Okay. Give me a reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
I haven't sat
I'm a-
down to read that kind of thing, but
Some
Gonna
of
have
what
to.
he says in there, some of what he says in there is good. Like, I don't agree with if somebody actually said like, oh, I derive my morals from reason. I would actually I would critique that. That's a critiquable statement, right? Because reason is fallible, right? It's reliant on a priori knowledge. Mostly, it doesn't make sense how somebody can say my morals derive from reason alone. I'm not saying like Kant's a dumb fuck, but there's a lot of dumb shit Kant came from. Because
There's
again,
a lot of
this is
slander on this show. Oh.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just this is par for the course for 1700s philosophers. Okay, they come up with some crazy groundbreaking phenomenons on one hand, and on the other hand, you find out they believe in alchemy. They think black people have special bumps on their head that make them genetically inferior than white people. It's stupid shit. It's par for the course, unfortunately.
I want to find the utilitarian that believes in this shit, okay?
Their beliefs.
Wanna
on
know if-
Oh man, there's. Which one? Mills? Ayer?
Which
Or
one?
no, Ayer.
Oh, which one? Okay.
We can go over him. Yeah, Mill. I bet Mill had some racist thoughts. Let's see where Mill was. Mill was 1865. I guarantee this guy hated black people. I guarantee it. Was John Stuart Mill a racist? I guarantee it. I would be surprised to find out anything else. Mill and Sidgwick? Ooh, we could look into Sidgwick too. Racist. Let's see. There's a study on this that actually looked into John Stuart Mill on abstract. The article examines his views on the significance of the racial factor in the formation of what he calls national character. I bet this motherfucker hated black people.
Oh, yep, that sounds like some racist shit. Alright.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, the national character. You
The
can't tell me
national
that.
character.
No, yeah. So utilitarians would probably say something like black people can't provide utility or some dumb fuck like that. Like if you were a racist utilitarian, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
like
yeah,
If you were
no.
trying to be a racist, you would probably have to formulate a way in which like you could other people and not maintain that they hold the capacity for utility. Because if they did, that wouldn't make any sense. Right?
Actually, wait,
Or-
slavery is like extremely easy with utilitarianism, isn't it?
That utility is to be owned and use the slaves, yeah?
Or are you saying?
Yeah.
I thought Synth was trying to go with the route of like the negatives caused by their disutility is offset by a numerous amount of positives that come from like extorting their bodies.
Sure, yeah, that's more of what I was trying to go for, yeah.
It's like if
Like
they could
that-
produce twice the utility for other people, then it would justify taking advantage of them. Is that kind of the art or the way
Yeah,
you're going
that
to-
would be like the utilitarian view of that kind of shit, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I feel like disutility isn't to be like underestimated, right? Disutility is a part of the moral calculus that you're supposed to do as a utilitarian. You're not just supposed to maximize utility. It's also minimizing disutility or minimizing pain. That's not to be undersold. You have to work on both axes.
Sure.
I guess if you yeah. I don't know how you would do that exactly, but it's not clear to me that like somebody being caused immeasurable pain would be worth it if like two lives were made marginally better by extorting their bodies in the way that slavery is, oftentimes. So
Sure, yeah. I guess.
harm is the
Sounds
word.
like an interesting
Disutility.
study.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here. I know disutility is a word you by philosophers. I know that. So don't sit here and say harm is the word. I know disutility applies here. And I think disutility is more applicable too. Because when you say harm, what the fuck does harm mean? What does harm
Yeah.
mean? Like, I cause a tree, well, I could cause a plant harm if I stepped on it. Like that's not utility though, right? Utility is like experienced by sentient beings, I think, typically, as described by most utilitarians. So I don't buy this idea that it's meant to be harm. The correct term by I think Mills was suffering, but I don't like suffering just because I like disutility more. It's more applicable to utilitarian. You know what I'm talking about when I say disutility as opposed to suffering. Yeah, sorry.
Suffering's a lot more broad.
Yeah, it could just apply to many general things. When I
Sure,
say
yeah.
disutility and utility, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Utilitarian.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we do
So-
the last?
The last one. You want to do the bonus meme?
We gotta go
All
through
right.
the last one.
Let's do the bonus meme. Kanye's writing a philosophy book.
Oh yeah.
Shit's
Dude,
gonna
this
be
is so
lit.
stupid. I don't like
Shit's
this.
gonna be lit. All right.
I'm not buying this.
I know. I know we're all gonna agree.
Buying it. I'm gonna
If
buy
anyone
it.
has a valid opinion in the field, if their argument is valid, but is Kanye's argument valid? That's the real question.
It's
I'm gonna
called.
like this book.
Can we just be real? It's called break the stimulation. He's obviously going to talk about black people hopping off the plantation and joining.
Oh
his own-
no.
Or some. It's just going to be some
no.
dumb shit. Like this is going. So this. Here's what I'm mad about. This is going to do a disservice to two things. Firstly, this will do a disservice to philosophy, which is what I'm mostly concerned with. And this will probably also further like legitimize Kanye's career, which is what I see as like a disservice to the general public. Is like knowing that like Kanye's net worth could grow from pisses me off because I don't want to see Kanye West anymore in mainstream media. He's that one rapper that I just don't want to hear from anymore. Every
Well,
time he
he's
talks,
all-
it just-
He also acts as like a huge token black guy.
yeah.
Like
or,
that's the
get
other
off
problem with
plantation
him.
shit. Yeah, it's so gross.
And like I'm fairly certain that he's actually like clinically insane. That like his
Yeah.
mind is actually gone. Because like if
No,
you
he's
listen to
taking
his
SSRIs, right?
interviews,
He's actually. Yeah.
oh, is he really like
He's
on
on
meds for it?
I think
okay.
he's
It's
on
on
antidepressants.
opioids.
Yeah, or something like. I know that he's on antidepressants, or he should be. I think
He
is the
should
diagnosis.
be.
Yeah, I agree. He
Wait,
should be.
hold up. I don't mean that as a psychiatrist. I mean that like.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that somebody clinically diagnosed him with, like, some form of depressive, extreme depression or major depressive disorder, and like prescribed to him SSRIs of some variety. And sometimes he talks about not being on them. So that's what I mean by saying he should be. Is that like
Yeah.
if he's not on them, then clinically speaking, he take. Again, I'm not saying that people that are depressive. I'm not saying that people with major depressive disorder aren't allowed to write philosophy books, but specifically with Kanye West, sorry, I just feel like his motives for writing this is gonna. It's not gonna. It's gonna do like. It's gonna very briefly cover like some bullshit free will crap, and then go into how black people need to hop off the plantation of the Democratic Party.
Oh.
That's just
He's
what I
gonna-
feel.
Yeah,
Talk
I
about
mean,
time.
I also-
He's got a quote. There's a quote in the article. He says, "I've got a concept about photographs, about human beings being obsessed with photographs, because it takes you out of the now and transports you into the past, or transports you into. It could be used to document, but a lot of times overtakes people. People dwell too much in the memories. Oh, I feel touched. I think I'm
What
a
a
Westian now.
This is
no.
what a
This is gonna be-
philosophical
this is such a-
genius of our time.
I'm a Westian. It's
You're a
confirmed.
West-
Yeah, I'm a Westian.
That's her moral philosophy.
We're all
actually be-
Westians now.
Well, this seems like it could
They're
be
all
a
just
fun-
frames in a video. Oh. There's too much of an importance placed on history when it comes to photographs. Do you
Yeah, I think that Kanye West writing a philosophy book also kind of falls into the like classic informal fallacy of unqualified authority. He doesn't
yeah.
he doesn't have like any actual credentials or like I mean I understand that like some of the people
Wait,
who talk
yeah,
about
I was gonna say,
philosophy in the
before we-
largest way, Destiny, use like Wikipedia articles and shit, but like
Yeah.
he hasn't really shown that like he's that philosophical of a person. He hasn't really like put out anything to show that, so like a random philosophy book. It's really weird.
If there's 10 chapters and the first chapter is him giving like a pseudo dissertation on all the like realms of thought that he's explored and the articles that he's read and the books that he's read, then I'll give it some credence.
Yeah, I was gonna
But
say,
if it's-
give us a chance.
Yeah, if it opens up with him saying black people need to hop off the plantation of the Democratic Party, I swear to God, like I'm canceling it. If he's not,
I
already
mean,
canceled. There's just no
I
reason.
I just want his first words in like just the cover page, one page entirely devoted to Scoop de Whoop, Scoop de Poop de Whoop, just an entire page. The dumbest shit in his career. All right.
Yeah.
If that's not one of the pages, I'm not spending money on it. Okay, I'll pirate your shit, but. All right. So we still have like a couple more topics for like next time. But we've been going for like 2 hours. It's been pretty good. I feel pretty good about the podcast. I think it was
Oh, yeah.
good
It was
talks. Yeah. But like, as a little recap, we just kind of did philosophy stuff. We went over infinity time, the Molyneux problem, teaching philosophy at a young age, and kind of memed about Kanye West writing his philosophy book. Because we can only say that's a meme.
Putting it in my Twitter bio now, Westian.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I guess if you guys want to say who you are and, like, yeah, that kind of stuff. Wired, you go first, since I
Yeah, sure.
picked Simon the first time.
I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, I'm WiredGuitars. I do generally try to engage in some amount of philosophical thought on my mostly political stream. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much all it is. You can find me at twitch.tv/WiredGuitar with no S, but usually
Yeah.
people call me WiredGuitars.
Oops.
So. There we go. It used to be
alright.
WiredGuitars and then rip.
Alright. So, Simon, about you?
I'm the Fusion. I just debate on Discord. I discuss anything. I'm down for anything. I stream occasionally. My name's the same on everything. Yeah. If you disagree with me on anything, just shout. I'll talk to you. I'm not scared. If I don't know what we're talking about, I'll say I don't know what I'm talking about. Simple as that. Yeah, that's it.
Alright, cool. Alright, well, thanks for being on, guys. It was good talks, good memes. I'm gonna try to get on, like, a few more people for the next one.
Hell yeah.
Try to get, like, Irrelevant
Yeah.
and Micro in here.
Yeah. Do that. Get Rem.
Well, yeah, we'll get. That's the long-term goals, you know. Getting Rem in here at some point.
Yeah.
Um,
I think irrelevant should be actually obtainable, or not attainable. That sounds like
Attainable.
Yeah, attainable. Yeah, like I think irrelevant might actually do it. So
yeah.
Really-
So yeah, I'll try to
It's
get
something
like
with the
some.
scuff-
Yeah. So yeah, I'll try to get like more people on. I'll probably plan the next one for about like 2 weeks out. But other than that, like, thanks for being around, guys. Thanks for talking. Thanks for being on the show.
Alright.
Hoping to expand the world of philosophy, you know? One day at a time. Anyways.
Hell yeah.
Good podcast, guys. I'll, go and do my, my little outro thing.
Alright, dude.
Sweet. Hey, take care, guys.
Alright.
dude.
See you later, Wired. Good talking to you.
What's up?